Chapter 29:18. There's a seal around it? Yi Zichen, who was standing on top of the wall, reached out. He could stretch his arm out for less than half a meter. There was a barrier around it. Most importantly, standing on the prison walls, he could not see what it was like outside. All he could see was chaos. How am I supposed to get out? Yi Zichen had already run a lap around the wall. The prison gave him the feeling that it was a separate space. That's right. He felt like that description was very appropriate. This prison seemed to be outside of the ancestral dragon clan's realm. The chaos outside the wall was the best proof. Or perhaps this chaos was just a smokescreen. Yi Zichen felt a headache coming on. If it really was a separate space, then he'd have to go through the prison gates if he wanted to leave. However, it seemed like he needed a key card to leave. He did have one in his pocket. It was the key card of that senior guard, Old Huang. He couldn't activate it. How about I try to force my way out? Yi Zichen clenched his fist and gathered the power of his godhead. Never mind. Just as he was about to punch, Yi Zichen retracted his fist. I can't take too much of a risk right now. Who knows if the seal has any warnings? If I attack the seal and activate the warning function, then it'll be bad. In any case, this was just a preliminary exploration. There will always be other opportunities in the future. Yi Zichen looked around. After confirming that no one was watching, he licked his lips, jumped down from the wall, and hurried back into the prison. From the beginning to the end, no one had noticed him. You have to return your clothes. Yi Zichen returned to the guard room in the South District. When he returned, the young guard's corpse had already disappeared. Where is he? Yi Zichen's heart sank. If someone else found him and took him away, then his situation would become rather awkward. He's dead. Old Huang replied. I'm asking about the corpse. Ancestral dragon clansmen don't have corpses after they die. They automatically return to the altar after half an hour to await new life. Old Huang replied in a trembling voice. Old Guang replied with a trembling voice, Your Holiness, please spare my life. I will forget everything that happened today and never mention it to anyone for the rest of my life. Old Huang was really scared. Now, he had a happy family. He had a virtuous wife and a few lovely children. Although life was tiring, he still enjoyed it. How could he not be afraid of seeing his comrade die in front of him? Although he had always believed that the prison guards were invincible in the prison. In a situation where the prisoners had no points, the prison guards had points to protect them. They should activate the energy barrier to ensure their safety. But this conviction of his had just been mercilessly destroyed. His comrade died, moreover in a situation where no one resisted, not even the slightest bit of energy barrier was touched. This completely shattered his understanding. He could only sigh inwardly. As expected of the majesty of the human race, Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows when he heard that the deceased had returned to the altar. How would I, when I get back to the altar, will he or the others know that I'm the killer? No. Old Huang shook his head. You have to tell me the truth. Right now, I'm still considering whether you live or die, and the possibility of me killing you is higher. You should also know that a dead man's mouth is the tightest. Yi Zichen frowned. I promise you I won't, Old Huang said seriously. As he replied, the muscles on his face trembled. Yi Zichen could tell just how terrified he was. You're very scared, yes. You're scared that I'll kill you. Yes. I can give you a chance to live. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes, then pressed down on Old Huang's head. Old Huang instantly tensed up. Your Majesty, please speak. Be my man. Yi Zichen twisted his neck and said softly. As long as you promise to be my informant in the future, tell me any information you find in the prison, and do whatever I want you to do, I can guarantee that you won't die, and I can even give you a huge amount of points. I agree. Old Huang agreed without hesitation. So decisive? Your Majesty, I can't not be decisive. Everyone is afraid of death. I don't think I have the right to choose right now, Old Huang said forcefully. From now on I'm yours. I'll do whatever you want me to do. I won't be the slightest bit disloyal. I can swear on my soul. No, I don't need it. This sort of soul oath is far too illusory. What's more, I don't understand your ancestral dragon clan's rules, so I don't know how restrictive it is. I trust myself more. Yi Zichen shook his head with a smile, then sent a strand of divine power into Old Huang's body. Old Huang, who was sitting on the ground, also felt the divine power's presence. I've placed a curse on you. If you dare betray me, this curse will take your life. Little did he know, the curse was actually fake. He had simply released a stream of divine power and purposely circled Lao Huang's head, pretending that it was a curse. His goal was to use this as a deterrent. The way he saw it, it was even more intimidating. Yes, Your Majesty. I definitely won't betray you. I definitely won't. Old Huang said solemnly. All right, I'll give you a chance to live. Yi Zichen slowly raised his hand. What are you going to say about that dead guard? I don't know where he went. Old Huang shook his head. Very good. In Yi Zichen's eyes, insisting he didn't know was the best solution. If he said who killed the guard, his lie would definitely be exposed. He might as well say he didn't know. So long as he bit down thoroughly, he wouldn't be bound by his lies. Just now, someone was looking for you on your communicator. I told them your throat hasn't been in good shape lately. Remember not to let the cat out of the bag. Just now, I ran into someone outside. I told him I was going to look for a place to fight, and he recommended the back mountains. That's why you weren't here just now. You circled around the back mountains. Got it? Got it. Old Huang nodded vigorously. Go do what you need to do. When you have time, make an application to transfer your jurisdiction to my central district. That'll make it easier for me to contact you. Yes, sir. Old Huang, where are you? Why aren't you here yet? Didn't you already go to the back mountains? Yi Zichen looked down when he heard the voice from the communication device. I just came back from the back mountains. Did you guys already go over? Old Huang feigned a hoarse voice. I'm going over right now. I'll be right there. As soon as he finished speaking, Lao Huang lifted his head and took another look. He wanted to ask if Yi Zichen was satisfied with his answer, but when he looked up, he discovered that Yi Zichen had already disappeared without a trace. Chapter 29:19. The Boom City Prison War was about to begin. In truth, all of this had happened out of the blue. Simply put, it was all because of a daughter. Since ancient times, beautiful women had always been the source of trouble. Now, it seemed that this saying was completely true. From the beginning, it was all because of one simple sentence. The boss of the South District had taken a fancy to the special prison's Jiangnan. When the Milky Way Lord learned of this, he immediately chose to give up on her. This caused the two of them to fight in the prison. According to the grapevine, Yi Zichen slapped Jiangnan a few times. When she left the prison, her mouth was still bleeding. There were also rumors that her body was covered in bruises as well. There was no way to verify whether this was true or not. In any case, it was certain that the Milky Way Lord and Jiangnan had fallen out. After leaving the special prison, Jiangnan was threatened. Everyone thought that Jiangnan would eventually head for the South District, but to their surprise, he chose the East District, an old powerhouse. Baldy. This was already his 10th year in prison. He heard that someone seemed to be hunting him, so he came to the prison to avoid being hunted. He was the undisputed boss of the East District. He had many subordinates. He could be considered the strongest in the prison. However, during this period of time, a new rising star arrived in the South District. No one knew his name. All they knew was that people called him Big Brother Jia. As soon as Big Brother Jia arrived, he subdued the former boss, the Lion, and became the new boss of the South District. Although he didn't cause much of a commotion in the prison, the fact that he was able to subdue the Lion and the entire South District in a mere 2 days was enough to show how capable he was. This time, he had come out in full force. He had come to cause trouble for the East District. In truth, it was to fight for Jiangnan. Apart from that, everyone was actually waiting for the appearance of an important character. Yi Zichen. His Majesty was called the Milky Way Lord. Nowadays, the people in prison privately called him a coward and sneered at his actions. They thought that he didn't have the responsibility a man should have. He was tarnishing the name of the human race. Once, the ancestral dragon clan had a very famous human expert called the Milky Way Lord. No one knew the relationship between the Milky Way Lord and the Milky Way Lord. Some people said that the two knew each other. Others said that the Milky Way Lord borrowed the Milky Way Lord's name to intimidate others. The inmates in the latter prisons are more biased. Back then, the Milky Way Master was so awe-inspiring in the ancestral dragon clan. Even now, many people still remembered it vividly. In the hearts of the people of the ancestral dragon clan, his position was even higher than the Judgment Master. Everyone worshipped the strong. To be able to defeat the ruling master was enough to show the strength of the Milky Way Master. And the Milky Way Lord tarnished the name of Milky Way. Apparently, the Milky Way Lord had announced that if Jiangnan did not return to his cell within 2 hours, he would come out to cause trouble for her. Now, everyone was waiting for him. Whether it was the prisoners or the prison guards, they could all go. So many people. Old Huang, who had rushed to the back of the mountain from the duty room, was panting heavily. The surrounding prison guards couldn't help but frown when they saw him. "Why are you so slow?" "I just came to the back mountain to take a look and then went back. I didn't see you on the way back, so I wanted to go back and tell you that this place is not bad." Old Huang replied with a smile. "Can't you just say it through the communicator?" The surrounding prison guards smiled wryly. When they saw Old Huang's breathless appearance, they sighed and shook their heads. Old Huang was very popular in the prison, so they were more tolerant of him. However, one of the prison guards frowned. It was none other than the one who had met Yi Zichen earlier. "Old Huang." "What is it, Leicester? Did you bring your access card?" The guard frowned. Old Huang nodded and took it out. "I did. Check how many points you have left." Why? Something seems to have gone wrong with our system recently. Sometimes, when we go to the cafeteria or go to the main entrance, we'll randomly deduct points. I just wanted you to see if you've deducted too much." "Are you serious?" Before Old Huang could say anything, the others took out their access cards and activated them. "I don't have any." "Old Huang, look at yourself." Old Huang frowned and activated his access card. "I don't have any." When he saw the access card activate, Leicester subconsciously let out a sigh of relief. He nodded and patted Old Huang's shoulder, as if he had finally relaxed. "It's good that you don't have any. Then it might be my own problem. You have to go and talk to the prison warden. 1 point is still a point. You can't ignore it," Old Huang said worriedly. "Old Huang, Leicester is still single. Do you think everyone is like you, raising 3 kids and spending 1 point as 8 points? The surrounding prison guards instantly laughed. "It's just a few points, there's no need to worry about it. It's quite troublesome." "That's what I thought as well." Leicester nodded with a smile. "Hey, if you don't save now, you'll know what it's like to not have any points when you get married and have kids," Old Huang sighed. Old Huang let out a long sigh. "Your attitude won't do." All right, stop being the ambassador of saving," the prison guard smiled. "We're going to split the points later. Look at these people. They've been out for 10-odd minutes already, and we've already earned over 1 billion. It's just that why hasn't the Galactic Lord come out yet? I forced him to come out." "Oh right, Old Huang, why isn't the kid you brought here?" "I don't know." Old Huang's heart skipped a beat, but he still smiled and shook his head. "I haven't seen him since just now. Didn't I come to the back mountain to take a look? I don't know where that kid ran off to. He's always running around, I can't just tie him down. The newcomer is still too impetuous. D*MN, Don't tell me he went to the North District to look for beauties. We have to tell him not to mess around. This kind of thing is not allowed in our prison. If he gets reported. Report what? Just give him the points. Another prison guard curled his lips. Don't bother about him. He can do whatever he wants. Let's just stay here and watch. Boss said that if the Galactic Lord comes, we have to make sure he doesn't die. Look at this guy. He's stuck with the title of His Majesty, and we've even become his nanny. What can we do about it? He's His Majesty after all. There's no point in being envious. The prison guards discussed among themselves, but there were still some who curled their lips. Looks like we're definitely going to lose this time. There's still no movement. I guess he won't come. Who said he won't? Look. Suddenly, a prison guard raised his hand and exclaimed. Look, are those the special class people? They're here. Chapter 29:20. The northern wind howled. In the direction of the prison, prisoners in prison uniforms with the word "special" on them stood with their left hands in their pockets. They either twisted their necks or stared coldly ahead. The howling wind blew sand and dust into the air, ruffling their clothes. The only unfortunate thing was, they hadn't been set to music. Yizichin reckoned that, with their entrance set to young and dangerous music, it would definitely be enough. Originally, the eastern and southern districts were facing off against each other. When they saw the special join the fight, they lowered their weapons. They really dared to come. Brother Jie's eyes flashed with disdain. The Baldi from the eastern district had a similar expression. It seems like we'll have to put off our business for a bit. Up to you, Brother Jie said indifferently. If you want to deal with him first, then deal with him. In any case, this woman isn't leaving today. You're overthinking things. The Baldi sneered coldly. When Brother Jie first arrived, he did give him some face. After all, he was someone who could make a lion lower its head. Unfortunately, giving him face didn't mean he was afraid of him. In his eyes, the entire prison wasn't worth his attention. Big Sister Xing, special. Of course, the people who'd come weren't just from the southern and eastern districts. There were also people from the western and northern districts who'd come to watch the show. Among them, the person in charge of the northern district, Yuchi Xing, was one of them. She was the only female boss in the entire prison, and her jurisdiction was the northern district. She'd never had any grudges with the special. It was just that White Bear had been disrespectful to her and said some things he shouldn't have, which caused her to start targeting the special. But she wasn't targeting everyone. They were the ones who'd followed White Bear around and caused trouble. Haozi, who was now following Yizichin, was one of them. This guy was truly a master at adapting to the situation. White Bear had been the boss back then, so he'd followed him without hesitation. Now, he was doing the same with Yizichin. Later, she heard that White Bear had already died. She didn't bother with the special class anymore and didn't continue to cause trouble for them. This time, she'd come here. She simply wanted to see His Majesty. As for anything else, she didn't have much interest. I see. The person in charge of the northern district, Yuchi Xing, nodded slightly. She had the appearance of a leader. She was clearly a woman, but her long and narrow red phoenix eyes revealed a heart-palpitating coldness. Even if her tone is very gentle. He seemed to be laughing. The northerners who followed her here couldn't help but shiver. This His Majesty of the human race doesn't seem to be as ridiculous as the rumors out there. Ah! The short-haired woman beside Yuchi Xing couldn't help but be stunned. She looked ahead and said, Sister Xing, how can you tell? I feel that this person is very ordinary. Who are you looking at? It's the one at the very front with a stick in his hand. How could he be the human race's majesty? Yuchi Xing shook her head with a smile. The one at the back with both hands in his pockets, hiding behind everyone else. Ah! The short-haired girl was startled. Why, Sister Xing, you've seen him before? I didn't see him, But some people could sense his special aura with just a glance, and then he attracted the attention of others. Yu Qixing whispered, "Look at that person walking in the back. Everyone, including the women, looks like they're facing a great enemy. Only that person's eyes are clear and calm. Furthermore, none of the people walking behind him dare to walk in the same row as him. That's enough to prove how special he is. It's clear that the person walking at the very front is someone he intentionally pushed out. But he's hiding in the back. He doesn't seem like a hero, does he?" The short-haired woman twitched her mouth. "He's the boss, but he doesn't dare walk at the very front. He's afraid of the slightest thing and even gave his woman to someone else. People like that are the worst." Yu Qixing didn't retort. Of course. She couldn't be bothered. Was His Majesty of the human race really that bad? In her opinion, not necessarily. If Jiangnan really had a conflict with Yi Zichen and chose to transfer, the best place to go would be the Northern District, which was under her jurisdiction. She was a woman. She'd always treated female prisoners well. There was no need for her to choose between the Eastern and Southern districts. The Northern District was absolutely her first choice. Even if she was worried about her own situation and didn't want to cause trouble for the Northern District. Logically speaking, she should have sent someone to contact the Northern District. From start to finish, she hadn't seen anyone from the Northern District. Furthermore, judging from the current situation, her decision to go to the Eastern District had thrown the entire prison into chaos. The Eastern and Southern Districts had brought people to fight. No matter how she looked at it, there was no need for that. Even if she wanted to get revenge for herself, choosing the Northern District would still help her get revenge. Why would His Majesty of the human race choose to come here? Yu Qixing was somewhat surprised. He should have had some way of knowing that the Eastern and Southern Districts had turned out in full force. Under these circumstances, he should have chosen to avoid them. But he still chose to come here. Wasn't that proof of one thing? He had absolute confidence in his own strength. Or perhaps, he'd planned all of this on his own initiative. If it was the latter, even though Yu Qixing found it interesting, she wanted to see just what he was going to do. His Majesty of the human race. Don't let me disappoint you. I've already waited too long. Yu Qixing muttered to herself. At the same time, the special forces had already arrived at the center of the major districts. The man at the front with the stick subconsciously gulped down a mouthful of saliva. He was a bit afraid. This time, the big shots of all 4 districts had come. Furthermore, the Southern and Eastern districts had turned out in full force. Come on. Who's the Milky Way Lord who got scared out of his wits by a single sentence? Step forward and show me. Big Brother Jia of the Southern District roared with laughter. The man at the very front subconsciously glanced behind him. He really wasn't Yi Zichen. On their way here, Yi Zichen had suddenly arranged for him to walk in front in disguise. You aren't you? Suddenly, the man with the stick felt his shoulder being covered by someone. When he turned around, he discovered it was the new boss of the Southern District, Big Brother Jia. The man took a deep breath, then glared at Big Brother Jia with a cold snort. What? Oh, you've got pretty good eyes. Big Brother Jia didn't seem to be intimidated in the slightest. In truth, deterrence depended on the person. When you were absolutely confident, you wouldn't take anyone's threat seriously, and vice versa. He didn't take the Milky Way Lords seriously at all. What was there to be afraid of? Chapter 29-21. Old Cheng was panicking. He wasn't really good at brawling. He hadn't come to the special district because he'd done anything outrageous. It was just a financial scam. That's right, the way he saw it, he'd used it perfectly. It was just as White Bear had said at the beginning. Who in prison hadn't killed a few people? That wasn't nonsense. Even the women here, they might have killed before. He hadn't. He was very confused as to why he'd come to prison for a bunch of murderers. He'd used a certain method. He'd gotten some points from some of the dumber people. It wasn't a huge amount. Just 40 billion or so. That's right. He still believed that he'd used it perfectly. He believed that a few tens of billions of points wasn't much. His goal was 1 trillion. This was nothing. Little did he know his actions had shattered countless families and caused countless people to commit suicide. Although he hadn't killed anyone directly, he'd killed even more indirectly. That was why he'd come to the special district. To put it bluntly, none of the people here were innocent. However, he really didn't know how to fight. He didn't want to come, but he was afraid of being ostracized. Although Yi Zichen had made it very clear, it didn't matter if he didn't come. Who knew if he was telling the truth or not? He'd still come just to be safe. Reality proved that. It wasn't just him. Everyone else had come. Their thoughts weren't that different from his own. However, he was very smart. He wanted to climb up the ladder and gain Yi Zichen's approval. That was how he'd ended up pretending to be Yi Zichen. He'd thought he was just pretending to have nothing to fear. However, he hadn't expected, when he really came here, his legs and stomach trembled uncontrollably. It was too scary. He was extremely regretful. However, he knew that he couldn't let the cat out of the bag. If he did, Yi Zichen might kill him. What? Old Qing intentionally used what he thought was a rather domineering tone and gaze as he looked coldly at Brother Jie. Stop being an eyesore. If you don't want to die, then scram. Ha 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 ha, Brother Jie suddenly laughed out loud. He turned around and looked at his subordinate. Did you hear that? The Milky Way Lord said something mean to me. I'm so scared. Instantly, everyone in the south side roared with laughter. Jie Ji's shoulders trembled with laughter. He immediately turned around and swung his hand towards Old Cheng's face. But before that slap could fall, he had not Yi Zichen arrived beside Old Cheng like the wind, while Jie Ji's arm was also held tightly by Yi Zichen. In that instant, Yuqi Xing and Guan Feng couldn't help but frown. Did you see that? An expert. Yuqi Xing muttered softly. Her smile seemed to indicate that she was extremely interested in Yi Zichen, or perhaps satisfied. What expert? The short-haired woman was puzzled. Forget it. You wouldn't understand even if I told you. Yuqi Xing sighed helplessly. Just watch. Sis, are we not going back? Why go back? Isn't it just starting? But you said that you were here to take a look at that His Majesty of the human race. And now we've seen him for ourselves. Let's continue watching. It's quite interesting. A smile lingered in Yuqi Xing's eyes. The expected result did not appear. Instead, Yi Zichen grabbed his arm. Jie Gu knitted his eyebrows and looked at the ordinary-looking, yet disgusting young man. Do you want to die? You're Jie Ji of the south side, right? Don't be so angry, Yi Zichen laughed. We're all living in the same prison. Why do we have to fight? That's not good. Who are you? I am the special Lil Gu. Yi Zichen touched his ear and smiled honestly. I'm now His Majesty's personal bodyguard, commonly known as a thug. Thug? You? Jie Ji sneered coldly. I'm not that strong, Yi Zichen shrugged. But His Majesty has a lot of points. He promised to give me 500 million later. Although I'm rather afraid of death, I'm even more afraid of being poor. How about this? Jie Ji, let's both take a step back. Our boss came back to find that little beauty, Jiang Nan. What do you think? A Milky Way Lord dares to want Jiang Nan? Jie Ji said in disdain. Yes, of course, Yi Zichen sighed. Our Milky Way Lord loves Jiang Nan dearly. How could we not want her? Otherwise, what did we even come back for? Actually, Jiang Nan misunderstood. With that, Yi Zichen shouted at Jiang Nan. Jiang Nan, you misunderstood the Milky Way Lord. He never said he was going to give you to the South District. He was just joking. Who would have thought you'd take it seriously? You hurry up and come back. From now on, you'll still be our special sister-in-law. Jiang Nan, who stood beside the Baldy, frowned. What did he mean? Was he telling her to go back, or was he just saying it for fun? That wasn't part of the original plan? Also, what was this Lil Gu doing? Why did he pretend to be someone else? He didn't say anything back then. Jiang Nan was confused. She didn't know what to do. She wanted Yi Zichen to give her more signals. Come back! Come back! Yi Zichen waved his hands. Jiang Nan tilted her head and frowned. Come back! Understood. This time, Jiang Nan finally understood Yi Zichen's signal. I can't go back. Although he said he was going back, he kept waving and nodding his head. Nodding and coming back. Double affirmation meant no. That meant she needed to say something that would cause conflict between the two of them. Ha, what do you think I am? A dog? Jiang Nan snorted. You think you can come and go at my beck and call? I'm telling you, I can't go back. What's going on? Yi Zichen looked at her silently for a while. Come back. I already waved at you like that. What are you still doing there? If Yi Zichen knew what Jiang Nan was thinking, he would definitely kneel down. Double affirmation, my ass. Hurry up and come back. Otherwise, how is Jiang Nan supposed to get out of this? She had already said it to that extent. Then, even if everyone snatched it away, wouldn't she have a bad reputation if she came back? However, Jiang Nan didn't know that. She was still immersed in her emotions. I'm already with the big bro of the East District. I'm much better here than in your shitty place. Also, what do you think we came here for? We came for revenge. I'm going to pay you back 10-fold, 100-fold for the 3 slaps you gave me. All of a sudden, Yi Zichen's heart turned cold. Sister, what kind of trouble are you causing? Chapter 29-22. How should he deal with this? According to Yi Zichen's thoughts, if Jiang Nan chose to side with the Eastern District and let the people of the Eastern District come out, the Southern District would definitely come looking for them. That way, their targets would roughly converge. At that moment, Yi Zichen explained a bit, causing Jiang Nan to change her mind and return to the special base. At this moment, the Eastern District would definitely fly into a rage out of humiliation. The Baldy had brought people to cause trouble for Jiang Nan, and he had chosen to disguise himself as a charging lackey to get rid of these people. This way, he could not only ensure that his identity would not be exposed, but he would also be able to plunder enough points. He could also protect Jiang Nan's face. Moreover, he would be displaying his special strength to the public, so that they would pay more attention to him. That's right, Yi Zichen had taken on Old Cheng's appearance, and Old Cheng was him. This was all part of his plan. He had already steeled his heart to make himself into someone who was incapable and unworthy of attention. A simple fake identity was useless. His identity was fake and he didn't disguise himself. He dealt with all these people in front of so many people. In the future, he would definitely become a celebrity in the prison. At that time, it was inconvenient for him to move around. That way, it would be easier for Yi Zichen to carry out his plans in private. Unfortunately, Jiang Nan wasn't back yet. Ha 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 ha. It was also at this time that the boss of the Eastern District, Baldy, laughed wantonly. Kid, stop dreaming. Now, Jiang Nan belongs to me. Heh, I think you're dreaming. Brother Jie of the Southern District sneered. Do you think you can walk out of here alive? His cold tone instantly caused the entire back mountain to descend into a severe chill. Oh, is that so? The boss of the Eastern region could not help but shake his head and smile. In the blink of an eye, his gaze turned sinister. Do you think our brothers in the Eastern region are all vegetarians? What do you eat have to do with me? Jiegu shrugged slightly. Even if you eat shit, so what? Brothers from the East side? Do you think you're the only one with brothers and our South side doesn't have any? Everyone at South side took a step forward with sticks in their hands. Seeing this, the people from the Eastern District also stepped forward with their stick. The confrontation of thousands of people and the solemn murderous aura covered the entire back mountain. There seemed to be sparks between the two of them. A great battle was about to break out. Seeing this, Yi Zichen arched his eyebrows and couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. Since ancient times, beautiful women were the source of trouble. That was right. Look, just for Jiangnan, it seemed like the two major districts of the prison were ready to make a move. Why not watch the fun for a while? Yi Zichen touched his lips and couldn't help but chuckle evilly in his heart. Letting them fight amongst themselves for a bit, then I'll clean up the mess. He was right. Brilliant plan. Yi Zichen nodded in satisfaction, then signaled towards Jiangnan with his eyes. What do you mean? Jiangnan pursed her lips as she furrowed her brows. Why was he the one who'd sent the signal? Back in prison, she didn't have much of an impression. However, Yi Zichen's expression hadn't changed at all. In fact, he was a bit nervous. Could it be that he was afraid that others would find out and deliberately let the people in the prison send her a message? But the two of them did not have a tacit understanding. She couldn't figure out what this person was trying to do. Little did he know that all of this was what she wanted. Right now, Yi Zichen was giving her a signal. She couldn't understand it purely because she and Zhao Yi Zichen didn't have enough chemistry. What happened? Jiangnan should be quite smart. Why does she look so dumb now? Yi Zichen frowned slightly, then signaled Jiangnan with his eyes. Jiangnan's brows were also furrowed. Forget it. I'll just let her do whatever she wants. Even if something went wrong, she could just blame it on that person for not giving her a proper signal. I don't care who wants me. I've already given up on myself. Women in prison still need to rely on men. I don't care how you fight amongst yourselves. I'll follow whoever can help me vent my frustrations. Jiangnan looked as if she'd given up on herself. When he heard this, Yi Zichen wanted nothing more than to put on an oxygen tank. Heavens! Did she even know what she was talking about? This was originally an easy problem to solve, but now that she'd said it, the flames of war between the two sides had been dragged into this? This was too difficult. Big sister, do you want our special forces to be annihilated? Yi Zichen couldn't help but transmit with his divine power. In truth, he didn't want to transmit with his divine will. It wasn't like maintaining an illusion. The energy fluctuations were relatively small and hard to detect. This sort of transmission had an extremely wide range. If the ancestral dragon clan noticed, they might follow the fluctuations and find him. If that happened, his identity as a god would be exposed. But he really couldn't bear it any longer. When Jiangnan received the transmission, she froze. She looked at the fake Yi Zichen in astonishment. Where are you looking? Look over here. Yi Zichen transmitted again, then glanced meaningfully at Jiangnan. Only now did Jiangnan realize that this was Yi Zichen. You don't need to do anything right now. I just want to ask you, can't you read my signal? Yi Zichen frowned. I told you to come back, so you came back? If you didn't come back, fine, but why didn't you start a conflict between the eastern and southern districts? Why did you tell them to focus on the special forces? Jiangnan fell silent. I really can't take it anymore. You wasted all my trust in you. Turns out you're just a fool, said Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen retorted. Really? Wasn't the signal I gave earlier obvious enough? Yi Zichen took a deep breath, then stopped transmitting. There was no point in transmitting now. Just now, he simply couldn't help but complain. As for making arrangements, what was there to make? He'd already said it all. Was there any room for redemption? Yi Zichen rubbed his nose, then licked his lips and smiled. You want to touch our Milky Way Lord? Wait, I have something to say. Before Yi Zichen could finish, Yu Qixing suddenly walked out and nodded towards the surrounding people. When she reached Yi Zichen, she purposely squinted her eyes with a smile. I don't have any intention of getting in your way. It's just that little sister Jiangnan's words just now made me feel a bit emotional. I feel like she's being too absolute. Why must women rely on men? Women can also hold up half the sky. That's you, Jiangnan smiled wryly. I can. Why can't you? Yu Qixing shrugged. Also, I have another question. Why didn't you choose me, and instead chose the Baldy? Do you think I can't protect you? How about this, come to me. I'll protect you. I do want to see who dares to steal people from me. With that, Yi Zichen, who was standing behind Yu Qixing, suddenly felt like his brain was lacking oxygen. His hand trembled. Hurry up and give me an oxygen tank. Chapter 29-23. Red Packet Server, Chapter 29-18. A hand over the person, and I'll spare your worthless life. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 29-24. Red Packet Server, Chapter 29-19. Next, please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 29-25. Red Packet Server, Chapter 29-20. Please hurry and make a decision. Please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 29-26. One man can hold the pass against 10,000. That was Yi Zichen's current state as he stood proudly in front of the people of the South and East districts. The disdain in his eyes was obvious. Ha 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 ha! The Baldy of the East district laughed out loud, then pointed towards Yi Zichen with a mocking gaze. You actually want to steal all of our points. Do you know how many people there are in the East district? I don't have time to waste with you. I'll just ask you one thing. Are you going to surrender or wait for me to do it myself? Come and try. Even though Yi Zichen could instantly take care of Iron Bull, the Baldy of the East district had nothing to fear. How could he be afraid of the thousands of people behind him? Is that what you think as well? Yi Zichen tilted his head and glanced at Brother Jie of the South district. Brat, I can't be bothered with you. If you insist on coming here to look for trouble, then I don't mind teaching you a lesson. Brother Jie's expression was cold. When Yi Zichen saw his disdainful gaze, Yi Zichen couldn't help but nod with a smile, then his gaze instantly turned cold. Then I'll start with you first. In an instant, an afterimage flashed by. No one saw what Yi Zichen did. All they heard was a scream. The boss of the South District, Brother Jie, was already on the ground with his arm twisted. Yi Zichen stepped on his chest and looked at the people of the South District. Who wants to get revenge for him? Everyone in the South District was completely silent. They stared at Brother Jie, who was being stepped on by Yi Zichen, then subconsciously looked towards their former boss, Lion. At that moment, Lion's eyes were filled with terror. He never thought that Brother Jie would be subdued so easily. Brother Jie, who was on the ground, was in a similar state. He couldn't resist at all. In other words, they weren't even on the same level. This person was ridiculously strong. I am willing to surrender, my lord. Lion thought for a moment, then knelt on the ground. There was no need to struggle. The person in front of them wasn't on the same level as them at all. There was no comparison between them. Even if they all attacked together, there was no hope. This person definitely had the power to deal with the entire South District. Seeing Lion kneel, everyone in the South District knelt down as well. We are willing to pledge allegiance to you. The entire South Side bowed down to them. This scene was somewhat shocking. Even Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows in surprise. Yi Zichen thought to himself, these people are really pushovers. They clearly have so many people, but they don't dare to fight Yi Zichen. As expected, what general leads what soldiers? The soldiers were fierce, and the generals were fierce in a nest. After the former leader of the South Sector, Lion, knelt down, everyone else knelt down as well. It was somewhat comical and pitiful. That was good too. That would save them a lot of effort, and Yi Zichen would make things easier for them. Yes, he would leave some points for them. Rat! Here! Special Rat rushed out in a hurry. At this moment, his eyes were also lingering with shock, but more than that, there was surprise. Go, keep an eye on them. No one is allowed to run. With that, Yi Zichen looked back at the bald man in the Eastern District, as well as his subordinates. How so? Are you going to resist and wait for me to personally take action, or are you going to surrender now? I'm actually quite easy to talk to. What's more, our Milky Way Lord said that as long as you surrender of your own accord, we'll take half of your points. If you resist to the end, then we can only apologize to you. We'll take all of your points. Yi Zichen twisted his neck, then tapped his arm with his finger. I'll give you half a minute to think about it. How arrogant! You want us to count our points? The bald man roared, his eyes bloodshot. Do you think our East Sector is like the cowards of the South Sector? Brothers, kill him. Half, the bald man had about 100 billion points. It was the result of his life's work. If Yi Zichen took half of it, he might as well just kill him. Kill him! The bald man roared angrily. In response, his subordinates really did raise their weapons and charge forward. What a bunch of pitiful people! Yi Zichen looked silently at the surging crowd, then let out a long sigh, clenched his fists, and stretched. It seems like I can finally move around. Instantly, Yi Zichen's figure turned into a blur. He charged through the crowd like a human-shaped tank. Miserable screams filled the air. Anyone who saw this from the outside couldn't help but click their tongues in shock. Big sister. This fella, he's really ridiculous. The short-haired girl's eyes were filled with shock. She watched as Yi Zichen used his own strength to stir up a storm in the entire eastern sector, and no one could stop him. For a moment, it was as if he'd entered a no-man's land, doing as he pleased. Dong! Dong! One figure after another fell to the ground. Yi Zichen slowly walked towards the bald man, the leader of the eastern sector. Anyone who dared stand in his way was thrown to the ground and coughed up blood. The bald man was starting to panic. He'd underestimated the strength of the eastern sector, and underestimated Yi Zichen's true strength. This guy was ridiculously terrifying. Kill him! The bald man was still shouting, but the people behind him had already seen what was happening. In their terror, quite a few people chose to surrender. We surrender! More and more people threw down their clubs. Yi Zichen glanced at them. Go to the southern sector and stand there. The criminals threw down their weapons and hurriedly ran towards the southern sector. During this time, the special criminals didn't stay idle. They kept a close eye on the people on the ground, in case they took advantage of the chaos to sneak into the surrender zone. Gradually, more and more people surrendered, and the bald man's subordinates dwindled. In the end, he was left alone. You! Who the hell are you? The bald man's eyes were filled with terror. Yi Zichen smiled, squinted his eyes, and glanced at him. Cui Cheng. Big brother Cui, this is all a misunderstanding. Didn't you want Jiang Nan? I'll give her to you. The bald man shouted, his eyes filled with terror. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and smiled, then grabbed Jiang Nan's wrist and pulled her back. I don't need you to give her to me. I snatched her back myself. Didn't I tell you long ago that you had to treasure the chance I gave you? Who told you to not treasure it? It's too late to give it to me now. No. I surrender. I surrender. The bald man knelt on the ground and raised his hands into the air. Yi Zichen patted his face. Surrender? Too late. Chapter 29-27. Who could have imagined, to think that it would end up like this? The entire Southern District surrendered. The two leaders of the Eastern District and Southern District were both severely injured or disabled. The Eastern District suffered heavy losses. Half of them were labeled as resisting stubbornly, and the other half surrendered completely. As for those who witnessed everything, they were more or less shocked, and Cui Cheng was deeply imprinted in their hearts. If he knew that boss was so fierce, he should have turned into me. Rat muttered. He began to feel jealous of Cui Cheng. Needless to say, from today onwards, Cui Cheng's reputation would soar in the prison. It wouldn't be a problem for him to walk sideways in prison in the future. It was only natural for women to throw themselves at him. How envious! What are you mumbling about? Hurry up and collect your points. Yi Zichen patted Rat's head, then took out 2-point stones, which naturally belonged to Baldy and Brother Jia. I'll kindly accept your point stones. Yi Zichen squatted on the ground with a chuckle and looked at the 2 prison leaders, who were lying on the ground like dead dogs. Are you going to steal points? Do you need help? Yu Qixing suddenly walked in. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows and looked at her. Why are you here again? Are you here to express goodwill? Yu Qixing didn't bother to hide her smile. Sire's strength has left me in awe. For the future of our northern district, I have no choice but to express my goodwill. I don't want the northern district to fall to such a state. If you don't provoke us, we naturally won't come looking for you. In that case, that's great. Yu Qixing smiled, then looked at Jiang Nan, who stood beside Yi Zichen. Little sister Jiang Nan, you've returned to the special zone in the end. I'm just a bit confused. Why is little sister following Mr. Chui instead of going to the Milky Way Lord? Jiang Nan's expression froze. Of course, she wouldn't go to the Galactic Lord because she knew he was a fake. She chose to attach herself to Yi Zichen. She wasn't a casual person who could flirt with just anyone. From the looks of it, Jiang Nan is also related to Mr. Chui? Yu Qixing asked with a smile. Yi Zichen also frowned and looked at Yu Qixing for a long time. What do you mean? It's nothing. I'm just curious. Jiang Nan was the Milky Way Lord's woman, so she shouldn't be Mr. Choi's. Now that you're acting like this, it's hard to avoid misunderstandings, don't you think? Yu Qixing smiled. From her tone and eyes, she didn't seem to be curious, but more like a reminder. She seemed to have the intention to come here and specifically remind them. Jiang Nan, go find the Galactic Lord. Yi Zichen frowned. Jiang Nan hesitated for a moment, then left. Yu Qixing also smiled. That's more like it. Otherwise, it would be weird if someone saw us. Is there anything else? That's all. Also, do you guys need to plunder points? My level is relatively high, so I can help you guys snatch them back. No need. Yi Zichen replied coldly. Those who surrender will voluntarily hand over half of their points. There's no need to plunder. Then, what about those who don't take the initiative? I can get it myself. Yi Zichen spread open the 2-point stones in his hands. One of them had 110 billion points, while the other had 30 billion. Being able to display the points meant that Yi Zichen already had the point stone in his possession. Seeing this, Yu Qixing raised her eyebrows. I didn't expect Sir to plunder to the max level as well. Since that's the case, then there's no need for me to worry about you. I'll be taking my leave now. Yu Qixing cupped her hands with a smile. Yu Qixing smiled and cupped her hands. She had only taken 2 steps when she stopped and whispered, Sir, don't forget that you still owe me a favor. You'll repay this favor, right? Naturally. I'm talking about you. I believe Sir understands what I mean. Sure. Yi Zichen didn't say anything else. Yu Qixing smiled in satisfaction, then turned around and left. Until she walked out of the back mountain, Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and looked at Yu Qixing's back. Just what does that woman do? I think I can tell, Yi Zichen nodded. Plundering points took 10-odd minutes. After collecting all of them, Yi Zichen and the others returned to the special area. Along the way, some guards tried to talk to them, but Yi Zichen ignored them all. The harvest this time was pretty good. Unfortunately, it wasn't as exaggerated as Yi Zichen had imagined. The points of several thousand prisoners only amounted to less than 2 trillion. That's right, it was over 1 trillion, but in the end it was still a bit too little. Should we split it according to the ratio we discussed earlier? Yi Zichen had 400 billion points, while Haozi, Cui Qing and Jiang Nan each got 5%, giving them 100 billion. The rest of the prisoners all got several dozen billion points. All of the prisoners in the prison beamed with joy. This time, they'd reaped a huge harvest. They'd gotten back everything they'd taken from them with interest. Some of their assets had even multiplied by several times. Everyone was grateful to Yi Zichen. They said all sorts of flattering things. However, these points were still a bit too little for Yi Zichen. He'd thought that if he could directly break through to 1,000,000,000 while in prison, he'd be able to stand at the peak of the ancestral dragon clan. It seemed like he'd been too naive. If he didn't split the points with the prisoners, he really could have gotten 1,000,000,000. What are you thinking about? Jiang Nan walked up and whispered. Yi Zichen rubbed his chin and sighed. Do you understand the ancestral dragon clan's point system? I kind of understand it. What about it? 1,000,000,000. Just what can it do? Yi Zichen frowned. Last time, I met a few trillion-level people. They seemed to be omnipotent. You're right. What do you mean, right? Omnipotent, Jiang Nan shrugged. 1,000,000,000, your ability is omnipotent. In a place like the ancestral dragon clan, as long as you have enough points, you can have anything. However, most of you humans only buy some equipment or strength that can be taken away. The 400 billion you have right now is enough to buy a country lord. Country lord? 400 billion? Yes. What about sovereigns? 2 trillion sovereigns, 6 trillion sovereigns, and 40 trillion sovereigns. These are all clearly priced, and the success rate is 100%. Of course, you can also choose to buy sovereigns with a lower success rate. For example, sovereigns with a 50% success rate would only cost less than 300 billion points. Jiang Nan giggled. Jiang Nan chuckled and said in a low voice, Should I congratulate you now? You are already half a venerable. That is, if you're willing to bet. Chapter 29-28. Points, are they that useful? Yi Zichen had heard that he could buy cultivation levels, but he'd only heard about it from Zhu Yunjiu. He didn't know exactly how many points it would cost. At the time, he estimated that he definitely couldn't be short on points. Now, it seemed like that was indeed the case. 300 billion points could buy half a sovereign. 300 billion. That was already quite a lot, and it was only a 50% chance. If he didn't succeed, the 300 billion would be wasted. Disregarding everything else, how many of the people participating in the trial could get more than 300 billion points? Yi Zichen could probably count the number on 2 hands. It sounded like the ancestral dragon clan had a lot of power and could buy anything, including supreme experts. Unfortunately, when he thought about it carefully, the threshold was pretty high. It was still somewhat difficult to use points to purchase realms. What's more, he didn't want to buy cultivation levels for himself. If it were possible, he wanted to use the points to buy cultivation levels for Su Yan and Xia Kiki. He didn't know why, but he was obsessively confident in himself. Even if he didn't buy cultivation levels, he could still become a supreme expert. There was no helping it, he was just that confident. He'd pretty much gotten all the points in the prison. Now, he had to think about how to break out. There was no way he could stay here forever. Oh yeah, I'll give you my points. Jiang Nan took out her point stone. What are you doing? They'll be yours anyway. There's no difference between giving them to you now or after we get out. Wait, you really believe that I can take you out? Yi Zichen frowned at Jiang Nan. He didn't know why she was so confident in him. Even he himself didn't have absolute confidence that he could get out. Then who else can I trust? Jiang Nan shrugged. Just now, you took over the southern and eastern district. You already showed your strength. There's no other person like you in the entire prison. If I don't trust someone like you, who else can I trust? Don't worry, I'm not pressuring you. Even if we can't get out, these points are yours anyway. Plus, I don't need them. If I stay here, I won't be able to use them. Once we get out, they'll belong to you, so it's only natural to give them to you. Jiang Nan smiled, then placed the points into Yi Zichen's hands. Keep it to buy what you need. You humans need quite a lot of points to get to the ancestral dragon tribe. Equipment, realms, secret techniques. All of these require a lot of points. You're really, Yi Zichen pursed his lips and shook his head with a smile. Jiang Nan raised her eyebrows and looked at him for a moment. What happened to me? You're making me feel like I'm letting you down by not bringing you out. Yi Zichen shook his head with a wry smile. To tell you the truth, I was actually planning on going out, but what is it? Jiang Nan's expression turned cold. She'd always been very concerned about getting out of prison. When she heard that Yi Zichen had decided to leave, she was naturally anxious. He glanced at his surroundings. The people in the prison were all grinning from ear to ear as they looked at their point. As long as they could get out of the prison, they would be considered as upper-class people in the ancestral dragon clan. When he noticed that they weren't looking, Yi Zichen waved. The two of them walked to a corner, then Yi Zichen muttered to himself for a while. I'm going to break out of prison. Prison break? Jiang Nan wasn't shocked at all. Instead, she frowned slightly and asked, What plan? You're not surprised? Why would I be? I'm going to break out of prison. That's a crime. If we get out, we might end up on the blacklist, muttered Yi Zichen. You don't care at all? Can't you humans break out of prison? To Yi Zichen's surprise, Jiang Nan actually asked that question. Why did it sound like the ancestral dragon clan supported prison breaks? Wait, you guys. Can you break out of prison? Yi Zichen frowned in confusion. Why not? Jiang Nan shrugged matter-of-factly. Our ancestral dragon clan has always been like this. If you can break out of prison, that means you're capable. In fact, from the moment you entered the prison, your crimes were already written off. Even if you escape on the same day, no one will care about you. That is, of course, if you can escape. I don't know what your human prisons are like, but breaking out of the ancestral dragon clan isn't that simple. My God, just what kind of deity is your ancestral dragon clan? Yi Zichen was shocked. Breaking out of prison wasn't even a crime. Half a minute later, he suddenly narrowed his eyes and thought of a possibility. Could it be Wenli was waiting for him to break out of prison? Or could it be said that this was also a trial, and there was some sort of evaluation mechanism? He remembered from the moment they entered the virtual network, the trial had already begun. Everything that happened after that was a trial. On their way to the ancestral dragon clan, they encountered a total of 2 trials. One of them didn't warn them, while the other one did. Then, was it possible that there were many trials that didn't warn them? Although there were no points, they were still within the scope of evaluation? If that was really the case, then entering prison might very well be a type of trial. F***ck. It can't be. Yi Zichen's expression froze, and he couldn't help but sigh. If that was really the case, then this trial was way too random. But for some reason Yi Zichen actually felt that the possibility was very high. What is it? Jiang Nan couldn't help but ask when she noticed Yi Zichen's gaze. Wait a moment. Yi Zichen raised his hand to signal Jiang Nan to wait a moment, then decided to personally verify his thoughts. He entered the virtual network, Wenli still didn't give him any information or guidance. He clicked open their chat with a frown. Wenli Jie. What is it? Approximately a few minutes later, Wenli sent a message over. Hurry up and say whatever it is. I'm rather busy right now. I'm preparing to break out of prison, Yi Zichen sent the message. This time, Wenli replied within seconds and immediately sent another message. Do as you say. F***ck. It's actually true. When Yi Zichen saw Wenli's reply, he was able to completely confirm his thoughts. This prison is a trial. Cui Qing. Boss, I'm here. Cui Qing ran over with a flushed face. He was extremely happy right now. Not only did he get a huge amount of points, he even made a name for himself in prison. If it wasn't for Yi Zichen sitting there, he wanted to take out his cell phone and walk around a few times to show off. During this period of time, I'll give you a small mission. Chapter 29-29. He Octagonal Conference Table. Wenli's chuckle made the people around her look at her subconsciously. Noticing everyone's gaze, Wenli smiled and spoke. Nothing. Say what you need to say, I'm listening. What made the head of the virtual world group laugh? Why don't you tell us? The head of the Elixir Guild said with a friendly expression. Nothing much, the Milky Way Lord is preparing to escape. Wanli did not hide anything and shrugged. I thought he would have to wait for a while before thinking about escaping. Not bad, he didn't expect me to rescue him. It's not easy to escape from the ancestral dragon clan, right? The head of the Elixir Guild said. Nothing is easy in that place. Wanli shrugged casually. Everyone here has been there before. It's hard enough to survive there, of course it's hard to escape. Aren't you going to help? How can I help? Am I supposed to send a clone over to take care of her? Wanli pouted. Our virtual world group doesn't nurture newcomers like you guys. We advocate self-reliance and rely on our own abilities. We always want to be taken care of, and when can we take charge? Here. I have to mention that Her Highness from the Weapon Alliance. She even slaughtered her colleagues. Isn't that because you guys spoiled her? Wanli. I didn't say anything, did I? The head of the Weapon Alliance muttered. During this period of time, because their Highness killed the Mercenary Alliance's Highness, he had maintained a state of silence in the octagonal table. He tried to speak as little as possible. He did not grow to the point where he could still mention that matter after doing so much. I didn't mean anything by it. I just said it casually, don't mind it too much. Wanli smiled and waved her hand. The head of the Weapon Alliance could only bear with it silently. He had no choice, who asked his men to do something wrong. Not only could he not lift his head in the octagonal table, he also had to compensate the Mercenary Alliance with a large amount of resources. Most importantly, he still had to go to the River of Time. Reverse time. Revive the Mercenary Alliance's Highness. Alright, let's not talk about this. Where were you guys at just now? I remember talking about the heaven-stealing mercenary group, right? You guys continue. I'll just listen. Wanli waved her hand and motioned for the people on the table to continue. She, on the other hand, was sitting on the chair with her eyes closed, hugging her legs. Amazing! Yi Zichen didn't expect his random thoughts to actually be true. If this was considered a trial in that case, he would probably be able to figure out the ancestral dragon clan's plan. To put it bluntly, it was a kind of test. Coming to the ancestral dragon tribe to learn was indeed part of the reason, but the main reason was to put all the highnesses and highnesses together to test their individual abilities. For example, their ability to solve problems independently when faced with difficulties, their ability to react spontaneously, and many other aspects. If that was the case, in this trial, there should be evaluators or something like that. He must have been observing the condition and performance of the various highnesses, Her Holiness, and even all the people who came to participate in the trial. Moreover, there should be more than one reviewer. If there was only one evaluator, he wouldn't be able to take care of so many clearers. In any case, he had more or less figured out the routine here. That way, Yi Zichen would be able to do what he wanted to do without any worries. First, he had to break out of prison. Once he got out, he wouldn't have to worry about anything. He could just set a trap for anyone he didn't like. In any case, this was also a kind of trial. It should be acceptable for Her Holiness and Highnesses to compete with each other and create trouble and traps for each other. However, there was one thing that Yi Zichen cared about. Killing a colleague. Does this also belong to the scope of recognition? Yi Zichen thought about it for a while, then decided to ignore it. This wasn't something he should care about anyway. All he had to do was face the trial in front of him. In the following days, Yi Zichen stayed in prison very peacefully. He didn't choose to walk around, instead choosing to stay inside. On the other hand, Cui Cheng walked around quite frequently. This was Yi Zichen's idea. He wanted Cui Cheng to attract enough attention from the outside, then have Haozi and a few sharp-eyed subordinates follow him. He wanted them to investigate the situation. From the number of prison guards watching Cui Cheng, to the number of prison guards walking around the special unit, the time of their shifts, and even the number of people walking in their direction, He needed to have a grasp of the approximate number of people at each time. It might sound very troublesome, but sometimes, when dealing with a problem, one had to start from these minor details. It was very likely that such a small matter would bring him an unexpected surprise. Why aren't Shui Cheng and the others back yet? Yi Zichen looked at the time and frowned. They already exceeded the time limit by half an hour. Maybe I didn't notice. Jiang Nan massaged Yi Zichen's shoulders, then looked around with a frown, then whispered into his ear. When are you going to escape? Even if this scene was seen by others, they would think that the two of them were whispering to each other. No one would suspect that they were discussing the jailbreak. We still have to wait. Yi Zichen rubbed his nose. According to my calculations, I'll need at least a week to figure out the rules before making any plans. Do you have any specific plans? I do, but it's hard to say right now. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and muttered. Anyway, don't worry, I'll definitely bring you out when the time comes. You can't not bring me, I'll always follow you, Jiang Nan muttered expressionlessly. But if we want to break out of prison, it's best if we have our men among the prison guards. Do you want me to go out and buy one? No need, I have one. The prison guard, Old Huang, was the one Yi Zichen used when he was preparing to escape. During this period of time, Old Huang had indeed been transferred to the special unit. From the looks of it, he was truly prepared to serve Yi Zichen sincerely. Approximately 10 odd minutes later, Shui Cheng walked in with Rat and company from the outside. All of them had smiles on their faces. You still know to come back? However, the moment they entered, Yi Zichen's cold voice caused the smiles on their faces to freeze. Boss, look at the time. What time is it already? Did you guys forget what time I told you guys to come back normally? Yi Zichen said coldly. Boss, it's not that we don't want to come back, Rat coughed. The people in the North District won't let us come back. Yuqi Xing found a bunch of people from their prison and insisted on sparring with me. Sparring? Did Shui Cheng fight? No, I just sparred with them a bit, Rat smiled. Rat grinned. Then, that Yuqi Xing told us that she wanted to see you. She said you owed her a favor. Chapter 29:30. At the North District of the prison, Yi Zichen didn't delay Yuqi Xing's invitation for long. Towards this person, he actually wanted to get to know her. She seemed to have already noticed that he was pretending to be Shui Cheng. This surprised Yi Zichen. After all, not even the prison guards were able to see through his disguise. Or rather, even Jiang Nan was unable to see through it. Needless to say, the other prisoners all treated Shui Cheng like he was their boss. But this Yuqi Xing, how did she notice? It wasn't like they knew each other very well. If they interacted for a long time, she might be able to tell his identity from some small movements. For example, Su Yen and Xia Kiki. They should be able to tell Yi Zichen's disguise. Yuqi Xing. I have to ask her how she noticed. It might even affect my chances of getting out of prison. I'm going to break out of prison. When that happens, I'll definitely have to pretend to be a prison guard and leave. If I can learn some details from Yuqi Xing, then the chances of me leaving will be much higher. There was one thing worth mentioning. The former head of the South District, Lion, had come with them. Now, he was under the Special Bureau. Shui Cheng and Haozi were in charge of the two districts together, and Lion was their best fighter. This was in order to avoid any unnecessary problems. New prisoners joined the prison every day. Who knew if they would run into some troublemaker who wanted to provoke Shui Cheng in order to gain a position. Shui Cheng wasn't good at fighting. Yi Zichen tried it out. In terms of fighting, he couldn't even beat some women in the Special Bureau, so there was no need to mention men. According to what he said, he was a mental worker, so he didn't need to do the rough work himself. His subordinates would take care of it for him. Yi Zichen had no choice but to convince Lion. He became a filter. No matter what, he was once the head of the Special Bureau. His strength was enough to filter out a lot of provocations. Approximately a few minutes later, they arrived at the North District of the prison. When they arrived, the boss of the North District, Yuchi Xing, was already waiting outside. What surprised Yi Zichen was that the boss of the West District, Guanfeng, was there as well. "Welcome, Milky Way Lord. Please forgive me for not going out to welcome you." Yuchi Xing's eyes were filled with a smile. To be honest, this woman was quite an extraordinary person. According to common sense, female bosses were generally the kind of men who were more or less masculine. From their appearance, it could be seen that they were more inclined towards the appearance and behavior of men. Unfortunately, she had the charm of a woman. If one didn't know better, he would think that she was a delicate beauty. However, she was in control of the entire Northern District, one of the 4 leaders of the prison. With her in charge of the North District, even the former East District and South District didn't dare to act rashly. "Boss Yuchi." Yi Zichen cupped his hands with a smile. Yuchi Xing smiled sweetly, but her smile was incredibly charming. "Yes, let me introduce you to the Milky Way Lord. This is Guanfeng." The boss of the West District said it himself. Yi Zichen had also noticed the man when he went to the back mountains. He looked like a typical northerner. He was tall and burly with thick eyebrows and big eyes. From his appearance, he gave off a very decent feeling. Even though it wasn't their area's home ground, Yuchi Xing had to find her own presence. Since Yuchi Xing didn't go up to cause trouble, Yi Zichen didn't mind. Well water doesn't interfere with river water. Yi Zichen didn't expect him to show up of his own accord. "Boss Guanfeng." Yi Zichen cupped his hands again. "I'm not the boss. I just don't have any opponents in my area, so they recognize me as the person in charge." "I'm not trying to be some boss," Guanfeng replied coldly. "I'm here for no other reason than to challenge your subordinate, Chui Qing. I hope the Milky Way Lord will grant my wish." Chui Qing, who was standing behind them, was dumbfounded. He gulped and glanced at Yi Zichen from time to time. His heart was filled with panic. He was a paper tiger. One poke and he'd break. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows, then noticed that Guanfeng's gaze was filled with battle intent as he looked at Chui Qing. He really did want to challenge him. "Our Chui Qing is no match for Boss Guan, so let's just forget about it," Yi Zichen smiled kindly. Also, Chui Qing sustained some hidden injuries from last time, so he won't be able to fight for a while. "Please forgive him, Boss Guan. I won't take his life." Guanfeng was unwilling to let Yi Zichen off the hook, and the flames of battle burned even brighter in his eyes. He'd been constantly remembering. Every night, he'd mentally rehearsed his chances of winning against Chui Qing. To his surprise, he didn't even have a 20% chance of winning. His favorite thing to do was fight against experts. Now that he'd run into someone he only had a 20% chance of winning against, he naturally wanted to spar with them. That way, he could see just where he was lacking. He could improve himself. That was how he'd gotten his position as the boss of the Western District. He challenged each other until no one was a match for him, so he naturally became the person in charge of this area. TCH. It seemed this guy was a martial arts fanatic. Yi Zichen licked his lips and hesitated. "Must we fight?" "Of course! How about this? Let's spar for a bit." Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and smiled. "Don't overdo it. If you can beat me, then you can spar with Chui Qing." "You?" Guanfeng's gaze was filled with disdain. He was just that sort of person. He didn't think Yi Zichen was any sort of expert, so he naturally didn't pay much attention to him. "What about me? You want to try? Come." Guanfeng took 2 steps back and reached out his hand. Yi Zichen also twisted his neck and acted as if he was eager to try. "I'm going up." "Come, I'll even use both hands." Guanfeng shrugged nonchalantly. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and patted Guanfeng's body. Guanfeng snorted in disdain at the soft, powerless hand. Here. Guan Feng shrugged, then grabbed Yi Zichen's shoulder with his hand like a tiger's claw. Again? I lost. All hail Boss Guan. Yi Zichen hurriedly slapped Guan Feng's hand away. Guan Feng twitched his mouth. Your body is too weak. How did you become the human race's majesty? You're so weak. I became the human race's majesty through my brain, Yi Zichen smiled coyly. Then he turned to Cui Cheng and said softly, Boss Guan Feng wants to challenge you. If Boss Guan Feng wants to challenge you, then go ahead and try. Chapter 29:31. Cui Cheng was dumbfounded once more. When he saw the Milky Way Lord make a move, he let out a long sigh of relief. He thought to himself that he was finally saved. Who would have thought, Boss actually lost. What the hell was this? Boss had pretended to be Guan Feng and slaughtered his way through the prison. How did he end it with just one slap? Then, if Boss couldn't beat him, how was he supposed to? Boss, you really want me to fight Boss Guan Feng? Cui Cheng asked subconsciously. It's just a sparring match. Don't overdo it, Yi Zichen smiled and nodded. Yi Zichen nodded with a chuckle. Since Boss Guan is giving me face, then don't reject him. It's just a sparring match, but I have to warn you, don't go overboard. If you hurt Boss Guan, I'll be held accountable for you. Cui Cheng's mind was filled with question marks. He hurt Guan Feng? It was already good enough that he hadn't been beaten to death. Did the Milky Way Lord take the wrong medicine? Or did Jiang Nan torment him too late last night? His mental state wasn't particularly good. Did he think Cui Cheng was the Guan Feng he pretended to be? What are you spacing out for? Go up. Yi Zichen couldn't help but frown when he saw Cui Cheng's terrified expression. What's there to be afraid of? He was the best fighter in the entire prison. He couldn't afford to be afraid of anyone's challenge. With so many people watching, if he backed down, he'd definitely arouse suspicion. Yi Zichen didn't want anything to go wrong with his plan. Hurry up and go up. If you ruin my plans, you won't live past tonight, a cold voice rang out in Cui Cheng's mind. He almost instantly glared at Yi Zichen. He saw. It was a pair of eyes that were so cold that not the slightest hint of emotion could be seen. Gulp. Cui Cheng couldn't help but gulp. He took 2 steps forward. Guan Feng had been waiting for this moment for far too long. He'd been waiting for this moment for far too long. Boss Guan. Go easy on me. I should be the one saying that to you, Guan Feng grinned. Don't be so humble. Fight as you should. Don't worry about me, and don't be afraid of what the Milky Way Lord said. If you injure me, it's on me. I won't give you any trouble. The Milky Way Lord won't either. I said it. No, cough. Seeing that Cui Cheng was about to retort again, Yi Zichen frowned and coughed. Hearing this cough, Cui Cheng quickly lowered his head. Excuse me, Boss Guan Feng. During this period, Yuqi Xing had been watching all of this with the attitude of a spectator. She knew very well in her heart. The current Milky Way Lord was the Cui Cheng from back then. This Cui Cheng might be real, but he was definitely not the Cui Cheng from back then. She thought that the Milky Way Lord would teach Guan Feng a lesson. Unexpectedly, he actually admitted defeat. He even let Cui Cheng fight him. She didn't dare say anything else, but there were less than 5 people in this prison who could exchange blows with Guan Feng. As for winning against him, not even the Baldy from the East District. She didn't know much about Brother Jia at Southside. She didn't have much contact with him, so she couldn't make a clear judgment. This Cui Cheng, could it be that he was actually a master? It didn't look like it. Very quickly, Yuqi Xing denied her thoughts. Just from the timidity that Cui Cheng displayed just now, it didn't seem like the integrity that an expert should have. Then, what on earth was the Milky Way Lord planning? Was he going to defeat Cui Cheng and take over Guan Feng's position and identity? That didn't seem to benefit him at all. No matter what his intentions were, she just had to wait and see. She wanted to see for herself what exactly the Milky Way Lord was planning. The 2 sides faced off. This time, Guan Feng wasn't as relaxed as he'd been when he faced Cui Qing. His emotions were strained. He knew very well that Cui Qing was a troublesome opponent. Furthermore, from his gait, it was obvious that he was a martial artist. On the other hand, Cui Qing. His gait was disorderly, full of openings from head to toe. It felt like he could finish him off with a single punch. However, Guan Feng couldn't think that way. He'd seen Cui Qing's strength with his own eyes. If he did this, it was a trap. That had to be it. Many experts like to use this sort of casual method to mislead their opponents into thinking they had a lot of openings. That way, their opponents would lower their guard and win easily. This Cui Qing was obviously like that. In that case, a simple test shouldn't be a problem. Then, he saw Guan Feng's gait change back and forth. Cui Qing was so nervous he was about to explode. His eyes followed Guan Feng's ever-changing gait. He really couldn't hold on much longer. His heart was already beating like a drum. Gulp. Cui Qing couldn't help but gulp. He didn't dare attack first. He had that kind of strength. When he saw that Cui Qing hadn't made a move yet, Guan Feng approved of his earlier assumption even more. He was absolutely right. This Cui Qing was a peak expert. Battles between experts had always depended on who could keep their composure. Whoever made the first move had already lost half the battle. Just now, he'd already used many threatening gaits in an attempt to force Cui Qing to respond. However, Cui Qing didn't even move. That meant his threatening gait had no effect on Cui Qing at all. What a confident person, Guan Feng muttered to himself. He, too, viewed Cui Qing as a powerful enemy. Someone with this kind of confidence. It wasn't surprising that he'd managed to take over the eastern and southern regions. But he couldn't hold it in any longer. He decided to test Cui Qing one last time. If Cui Qing still didn't react, then even if he knew he was going to lose, he still had to test the difference between them. Then, he suddenly took 2 steps forward. He reached out with his right fist in a testing manner. Cui Qing subconsciously opened his eyes wide and tried to cover his face with his arms. But something unexpected happened. Guan Feng, who was about to punch, was suddenly sent flying. He fell to the ground and clutched his chest, his eyes filled with disbelief. How did he lose? He didn't see anything at all. What are you doing? Yi Zichen immediately scolded him. Didn't I tell you to stop sparring? How could you use quick fists on Boss Guan Feng? Your quick fists are for killing enemies, not for this. Then, Yi Zichen quickly walked over to Guan Feng with a frown. Guan Lauda, are you alright? I'll definitely teach Cui Qing a lesson when I get back. I told him it was just a sparring session, but he still used quick fists. Are you alright? Quick fists. Guan Feng blanked out for a moment, then understood. No wonder I didn't see it clearly. Quick fist. Don't I lost. Guan Feng gestured for Yi Zichen not to blame Cui Qing, then stood up with his hand on his chest and grabbed Cui Qing's wrist. Sir truly is a master. Speed is the only thing unbeatable in the world of martial arts. I've learned my lesson. I lost this time. If possible, I would like to ask you to accept me as your disciple and teach me your fist technique. I will definitely treat you as my father. Please accept me as your disciple first. Chapter 2932. As expected, Old Qing was dumbfounded once more. His expression wasn't much different from when Yi Zichen told him to fight Guan Feng. His mind was filled with question marks. What's going on now? He didn't do anything. He didn't even use his fist. He simply raised his hand out of fear. After that, Guan Feng was sent flying. Boss Yin he told him not to use his fists recklessly. Why the hell would I use my fists? Old Cheng's eyes were instantly filled with shock. I understand. Boss did all of this. He looked at Yi Zichen gratefully. I knew it. Boss is a great person. He definitely wouldn't let me die. So Boss had already arranged everything. He had actually hesitated in his heart. Damn it. I have to trust boss unconditionally from now on. What he didn't know was that Yi Zichen had done all of this. He was in a critical moment. The entire prison was focused on Cui Qing. Yet, he was still labeled as a useless person. He was just lucky to have taken Cui Qing as his subordinate. If he had won against Cui Qing, then even if it was just a sparring match, people would still notice him. No matter what, Guan Feng was the boss of the Western District. Winning against him was the same as winning against the entire Western District. How could someone like that be mediocre? If that's the case, then everything I've done before might be overturned. I might even be exposed about Cui Qing. If that's the case, then everything Yi Zichen did before would have been for nothing. He had to think about the worst-case scenario. That was the only way to prevent accidents from happening. Thus, when Yi Zichen pretended to fight Guan Feng, he had actually left a mark on Guan Feng's chest. When Cui Qing attacked, all he had to do was activate that mark. Guan Feng would suffer a huge impact and lose the ability to continue fighting. Of course, it didn't matter if he didn't accept it. The mark in his heart wouldn't disappear even after several hours. If he still didn't accept it, then he could activate it again. That way, Cui Qing's disguise would remain intact. Yi Zichen's incompetence would still remain unsuspected. 2 birds with 1 stone. Very good. Mr. Cui, just how did you do that? Guan Feng, who was still in the dark, was filled with admiration for Cui Qing. It was too fast. Before he could see what had happened, he felt as if his chest had been punched heavily. In fact, he didn't even know if he was punched. If the Milky Way Lord said it was a quick punch, then it must have been a punch. Guan Feng didn't dare say anything else, but there were probably less than 100 people in the entire ancestral dragon clan who could pull off that punch. And this was him saying too much. Cui Qing remained silent. Actually, he didn't know how to explain. This matter had nothing to do with him in the first place. It was the Galactic Lord's doing. He thought it best not to speak. The Galactic Lord would take care of it for him. Who would have thought? The Lord of the Galaxy didn't say anything, but Guan Feng nodded in understanding. I understand now. I was too rude. Mr. Cui's punch is definitely quite mysterious. I shouldn't have asked you so rashly. Please don't hold a grudge. I'm really just a little too excited and couldn't hold it in for a moment. Sir, please accept me as your disciple. Guan Feng knelt on the ground and wailed loudly. The Western region experts who'd come with him couldn't help but want to facepalm. This was too embarrassing. The leader of a group actually knelt in front of a hired thug. Although Cui Qing's strength was indeed ridiculously strong, they didn't understand how he managed to do that punch. But didn't Guan Feng's kneel make the entire Western region seem shorter? Boss Guan, you should get up first. Seeing this, Yi Zichen smiled wryly. Guan Feng shook his head. Don't worry about me. If Mr. Cui doesn't accept me, I'll kneel forever. Also, Milky Way Lord, don't say I didn't warn you. You absolutely can't blame Mr. Cui, okay? That punch helped me a lot. It was a good punch. Everyone was speechless. Cui Qing, who'd been grabbed by the leg, looked towards Yi Zichen nervously. He wanted to ask for help. Guan Feng, I told you to get up. Suddenly, Yi Zichen's gaze turned cold. Who the hell do you think you are? Why should I listen to you? Guan Feng's expression was filled with impatience. He was a brute. He only submitted to whoever's fist was harder. In his eyes, Yi Zichen was just a salted fish. He couldn't be bothered to give him any face, even if he was His Majesty of the human race. I don't count as a boss, but if you continue to disrespect me, then Cui Qing will never accept you. Yi Zichen smiled. Guan Feng, who was kneeling on the ground, couldn't help but be stunned. What does it have to do with me whether Cui Qing accepts me or not? Oh yeah, I nearly forgot. The Milky Way Lord is Cui Qing's leader. Milky Way Lord, my apologies. Guan Feng hurriedly stood up and cupped his hands with a smile. Milky Way Lord, I didn't mean anything by it just now. Don't think too much into it. I won't. Yi Zichen smiled. Ahem. Milky Way Lord, Mr. Chui listens to you a lot, right? Guan Feng muttered. Yi Zichen shrugged, then glanced at Chui Qing. Chui Qing instantly understood. I swear my loyalty to Milky Way Boss. I'll do whatever Milky Way Boss tells me to do, Chui Qing said seriously. Guan Feng's eyebrows furrowed when he heard this. Milky Way Lord? What is it? Come here for a moment. Guan Feng waved him over. Yi Zichen couldn't help but smile, then follow him. What instructions do you have for me, Boss Guan? Instructions? You're treating me like an outsider. Guan Feng's face was plastered with flattery as he took out a point stone from his pocket. 140 billion. Your Excellency. Milky Way Lord, you humans have a high demand for points, right? Guan Feng grinned. Don't say that's not the case. I actually know a little bit about you humans. You came here to study. You use points to buy some things you need in the human universe. Am I right? You can say that. Yi Zichen nodded noncommittally. When Guan Feng heard that, he smiled. My points. They're not a lot, but they're not a lot either. I'll give you 100 billion. And then? Yi Zichen laughed. Hee. Tell Mr. Chui to accept me as his disciple, Guan Feng grinned. From now on, you'll be in charge of the Western District as well. How about that? I don't want anything. I just want Mr. Chui to accept me as his disciple. Chapter 2933. To tell the truth. 100 billion points. Yi Zichen was truly moved. Guan Feng really was a martial arts fanatic. He was willing to pay 100 billion just to become Yi Zichen's disciple. What an astounding and exaggerated figure. Guan Feng, are you really that obsessed with the martial Tao? Yi Zichen couldn't help but mutter. With so many points, there's nothing you can't do outside. Also, you know what it's like to form the dragon race. Once you go outside, points are the deciding factor. No matter how thoroughly you study the martial Tao, it's useless. You're an amateur, aren't you? To Yi Zichen's surprise, Guan Feng laughed and shook his head. It's not as simple as you think. If points really are the deciding factor in this world, why are there so many experts? Have you ever thought about it? Yi Zichen's interest was piqued. He nodded slightly. I'd like to hear the details. Once you reach 1 billion points, you'll have the ability to burn points and bring both sides to the same level. Did you know that? Guan Feng murmured softly. I did. That's where the advantage of martial arts comes into play. Of course, there are other pay-to-win skills, but your martial arts ability is high, so you'll have a higher chance of winning in a duel. Also, the exploration zone's accumulated points have no effect. Guan Feng asked in a low voice, Did you pass by the exploration zone on your way here? The desert zone? That's right. For you humans, that's the accumulation zone. You need points to enter, replied Guan Feng. Guan Feng answered, The points you earn there aren't counted. It's all based on your own strength. When you came here, you were supposed to bring guards, right? Haven't you found it strange that guards are useless here? Guan Feng shrugged. I do think so. Yi Zichen was rather puzzled. In a world where points were the deciding factor, why did they need to bring guards? Even if they did, they'd be useless. Now that Guan Feng mentioned it, guards were actually for the accumulation zone, which meant that once they entered the academy, they might be sent to the accumulation zone for trials. Or perhaps guards were used to fight for supremacy in the accumulation zone. If that was the case, didn't that mean all the highnesses and highnesses who'd come to participate in the trials were for nothing? It didn't matter how talented they were. It didn't matter what trump cards they had. Even if Yi Zichen summoned his 5 elemental spirits, he still wouldn't be a match for the Duke. This was the suppression of the universe's strength. Realm suppression. It was not something that could be broken through just because one wanted to. You might be able to challenge someone of a higher rank than you, but if an admiral could challenge a duke, that would be ridiculous. I see. Yi Zichen pursed his lips and nodded, while Guan Feng grinned. I've told you enough. For the sake of my careful explanation to you, can you help me and Mr. Cui get in touch? 100 billion points is not a small amount. Indeed, quite a lot. To be honest, Yi Zichen had never felt like the points were few. Instead, he was worried about these points. He wanted it. 100 billion points were enough to buy a venerable with a 20% success rate. It was impossible for him not to be tempted. But Cui Qing was fake. Guan Feng was a martial arts fanatic, and if Cui Qing really became his teacher, he might not notice it in the short term, but he would definitely notice it sooner or later. You really want to learn martial arts? Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows. I want to make myself stronger. Guan Feng's eyes burned with passion. Guan Feng's eyes were burning with passion. I'm willing to do anything to increase my strength. Then can you keep it a secret? Huh. Guan Feng couldn't help but be stunned. Secret? What secret? What do you mean? Guan Feng was confused. Yi Zichen let out a long sigh. If you can promise not to tell anyone, I can help you. My lips are sealed. I won't tell anyone about Mr. Cui's abilities. Guan Feng thought Yi Zichen was worried that Cui Cheng's abilities would be leaked, so he hurriedly replied. At the same time, his impression of Yi Zichen improved considerably. Although he was a leader, he was very considerate of his subordinate. Give me your points. I'll take you in. Yi Zichen muttered. Guan Feng was stunned. I'm using 100 billion to become Mr. Cui's disciple. What are you doing here? What are you yapping about? I'll tell you the truth. I think you can keep your mouth shut, Yi Zichen pondered for a moment. But you can't tell anyone you know. If you dare, I'll kill you. All of a sudden, a gust of cold wind blew towards Guan Feng. Guan Feng felt the killing intent. Guan Feng subconsciously glanced at Yi Zichen with shock in his eyes. That sort of killing intent was definitely not something a normal person could release. The Milky Way Lord was an expert. Cui Qing is fake. I pushed him out. I was the one fighting the South and East districts. I was also the one who punched you in the chest. Yi Zichen looked down. If you want to take someone as your master, then come and take me as your disciple. You gave me a lot of points, so I don't want to screw you over. It's you. You don't believe me? Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and placed his hand on Guan Feng's shoulder. Not even half a second later, Guan Feng looked up in shock. Do you think His Majesty the human race is just for show? Do you really think I became His Majesty the human race for nothing? Yi Zichen knit his brows. Alright, I've told you everything I need to. Give me your points. Also, it's too late for regret. The moment I decided to tell you, you had two choices. Shut up or die. It might be a bit overbearing and unfair, but unfortunately I've never liked to talk about fairness. Master. Guan Feng muttered to himself for a moment, then cupped his hands and bowed to Yi Zichen. It couldn't be fake. Just now, the instant Yi Zichen touched his shoulder, he'd sensed that this Milky Way Lord was definitely a hidden, peerless expert. No wonder he'd been puzzled earlier. Cui Qing really had been full of flaws from start to finish. He'd actually thought Cui Qing was an expert. He'd really been blind. When he thought back to how he'd thought Cui Qing was an expert and knelt before him, he felt utterly humiliated. Too humiliating. No need to call me master. If you want to learn, I can teach you a few body tempering techniques. If you learn them, you'll be able to raise your current strength by at least 30%, said Yi Zichen quietly. From now on, Cui Qing is your master. You need to act like this when you're outside. I need to maintain my current identity. I have my own plans. If you ruin them, I'll still kill you. Yes, master. I definitely won't expose myself. Master. Yi Zichen frowned. Milky Way Lord, said Guan Feng respectfully. Yi Zichen nodded slightly. Give me your points, then go find Cui Ching and thank you for your point. I really do need them. Otherwise, I really can't be bothered to accept you. Chapter 29:34. Originally, Yi Zichen had some concerns. Would someone like Guanfeng, who only knew how to practice martial arts, expose him? What surprised him was that Guanfeng did very well. When he left with Cui Ching, his eyes were filled with respect and admiration towards Cui Ching, and he begged Cui Ching to accept him as his disciple. Under Yi Zichen's orders, Cui Ching agreed. At that moment, the boss of the West District, Guanfeng, was also taken under Yi Zichen's wing. Pretty much all of the East, South, and West districts of the prison were now under Yi Zichen's control. Yi Zichen felt like they were actually a type of resource. He couldn't just view them as a place to earn points, they should have other uses. As for how to use them, that would require him to slowly discover. At any rate, Guanfeng was standing respectfully behind Cui Ching right now, which made Cui Ching feel a little nervous. Who was he? Salted fish. Guanfeng was the true leader of the 3rd district. How could Yi Zichen not be afraid when Guanfeng was his lackey? He was worried. What would happen to him if Guanfeng suddenly punched him in the back? Guanfeng, who had become Cui Ching's disciple, he was also extremely friendly towards Yi Zichen. That wasn't really anything to worry about. Yi Zichen had already made it very clear, and Cui Ching's answer was very honest. He would definitely listen to Yi Zichen's arrangement. Thus, it was only natural that Guanfeng would treat Yi Zichen with respect after becoming Cui Ching's disciple. But I can't be too respectful. Yi Zichen felt like he needed to explain this to Guanfeng in detail when he had time. No matter what, in Guanfeng's eyes, Yi Zichen should still be a useless salted fish. He only respected Yi Zichen a bit for Cui Ching's sake. But he definitely couldn't be like a master-disciple relationship. It would be very easy for others to suspect him. However, he couldn't say that now. Yuqi Xing was waiting for him. Boss Yuqi, sorry for wasting your time. Yi Zichen raised his hand with a smile. Yuqi Xing shook her head with a chuckle, then glanced at Yi Zichen's body. No worries. What's more, I witnessed Mr. Cui's strength with my own eyes. Now, Boss Guanfeng has also joined the Milky Way Lord. It seems like Milky Way Lord has the final say in this prison. Boss Yuqi is too serious. Yi Zichen hurriedly shook his head. I've never thought about going to the unified prison. What's more, the prison guards are the ancestral dragons. What does that have to do with me? At most, I'm just making the various areas of the prison more integrated. Then, should our northern region join as well? Yuqi Xing chuckled. It depends on what you mean. If Boss Yuqi feels like it's better to join, then join. If you feel like it's better to maintain it, then continue to control yourself. Don't worry, Boss Yuqi, I definitely don't have any ambitions. What kind of person I am, the people in the prison more or less understand. Even if the Northern District doesn't join us, I won't send people to cause trouble for you. I prefer peace to conflict. What a surprise! Yuqi Xing seemed to be surprised by Yi Zichen's peaceful words. She raised her eyebrows, then pointed towards the stone table beside her. Sit. Boss Yuqi, I won't be sitting, right? Yi Zichen thought for a moment, then smiled. I'm spending points every minute I'm out. I'll feel bad if I waste too much time. Why don't you just say what you want? I like to get straight to the point. The Milky Way Lord sure is meticulous. Yuqi Xing pursed her lips and smiled. Yuqi Xing pursed her lips into a smile and said, You've already obtained so many points in the East and South regions, yet you're still feeling the pinch over the points you're currently losing. It can't be helped. We humans need a lot of points. Alright, since the Milky Way Lord mentioned your need for points, I would like to discuss business with you. Yuqi Xing's gaze instantly darkened. Then she looked around. How about we talk in private? There are some things that the Milky Way Lord doesn't want others to know, right? Her words, which were filled with deep meaning, Yi Zichen couldn't help but frown. She's probably referring to my disguise back then. Although the people here are all trusted aides of the various departments, saying it out loud will definitely cause unnecessary trouble. Cui Qing, you guys go somewhere else. Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows. Yu Qixing smiled. No need to go too far. How about you walk around in the northern region? Lil Yu, take the Milky Way Lord to talk to your sisters. All right. The short-haired woman nodded, then raised her hand towards Cui Qing and company. Mr. Cui, everyone. This way, please. Not long later, only Yi Zichen and Yu Qixing remained. Milky Way Lord, can we sit now? Yu Qixing pointed at a nearby stone table. Yi Zichen muttered to himself for a moment, then sat down. What does Boss Yu Qi want to talk about? A big business deal, murmured Yu Qixing. Yu Qixing whispered. This deal is worth at least $1 trillion. If the Milky Way Lords are willing to negotiate, I reckon, you'll have a few more overlords and venerables as your subordinates. This kind of power is already considered top-notch in the human race. Oh! Yi Zichen arched his brows. The Milky Way Lord probably knows as well. I know. You were pretending to be Cui Qing, murmured Yu Qixing. That's right. It was clear from her words that she'd already seen through Yi Zichen's disguise. I came here to ask. How did you know? Is there something wrong with my disguise? Please tell me. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that. The aura of a Milky Way Lord is just too eye-catching, murmured Yu Qixing. Yu Qixing whispered. No matter what a person becomes, the aura and pride in their bones cannot be changed. When I saw you guys, I felt like the Cui Qing you were pretending to be was the Milky Way Lord. Aura? When the Milky Way Lord appeared, although you purposely hid in the back, the aura you released was definitely not as simple as a hired thug, Yu Qixing shrugged. Also, the fact that the people around you didn't dare to walk beside you proves even more of a respect for your identity. On the other hand, the fake Milky Way Lord walking in front of me looks very ordinary. That simple? Yes. Yu Qixing shrugged. Nothing special. I just know that. None of your majesties are simple, so I was sure it was you. You know the human race very well? Yi Zichen raised his eyebrows. Not really. Yu Qixing squinted her eyes and smiled. I've been talking to the ancestral dragon clan for a long time, so I should know them better, because I've been to the human race before. Chapter 2935. A member of the ancestral dragon clan went to the human race? To be honest, Yi Zichen wasn't all that surprised. Didn't Zhu Ying of the ancestral dragon clan go to the human race as well? It seems like I'm not so sure. At that time, Zhu Ying was in the virtual network of the human race. As for whether her real body had entered the human race, it was still unknown. From what Yu Qixing said, it seems like she went to the human race and was a very special existence. Yi Zichen thought back to the ancestral dragon clansmen he met in the past, or rather, the people in the prison. It seems like they don't know much about the human race. When did you go to the human race? Yi Zichen asked out of curiosity. 1,000 years ago. Or perhaps even longer than that. Yu Qixing pondered for a moment, then a nostalgic look appeared on her face. I don't really remember. I just remember living in the human race for about 5 or 6 years. Then, I was brought back by the ancestral dragon clan's law enforcement department, and have been locked up here ever since. The law enforcement department brought her back, and kept her here ever since? In other words, Yu Qixing has already been locked up here for over 1,000 years. That's way too ridiculous. Why did the law enforcement department arrest you? Yi Zichen was shocked. The ancestral dragon clan isn't allowed to go to the human race. Yu Qixing shrugged. Don't you know that? The ancestral dragon clan can only live here. As for anything else, don't even think about it. There's something like that? Yi Zichen thought for a moment, then understood. That's right. He'd lived in the human race for so long, but he'd never heard of the ancestral dragon clan, much less seen any other clansman. How did you get out? I followed a little sister who came with you. I don't know if you know her, but she said that she's going to establish a corporation in the human race in the future. Her name is Wunli. Do you know her? Yu Qixing shrugged. Wunli? Yi Zichen's eyes were instantly filled with terror as he looked at the woman in front of him. You know big sister Wunli? Oh. It seems like you're very familiar with her. You're her little brother, so you're also of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan? Yu Qixing raised her eyebrows in surprise. I'm not. Then why did you call her Sister Wunli? A few reasons. Yi Zichen didn't want to say too much. He just felt a bit wary towards Yu Qixing. The main reason was, he felt that this was too much of a coincidence. She just so happened to want to cooperate with him, and the person she mentioned just so happened to be the human race's Wunli, who was also very familiar with Yi Zichen. Look at this problem in a normal way. When Yi Zichen found out that she was friends with Wunli, he should be very shocked, and then trust her greatly. But the more Yi Zichen thought about it, the more he found it strange. Perhaps it was because he had experienced too much that he was used to thinking in reverse when dealing with problems. Looks like I gave a bad example. Yu Qixing sighed in distress. I can tell from your eyes that you're wary of me. Shouldn't I? Yi Zichen frowned slightly. Just tell me what you want to do. That's just how I am. I'm very alert to everything. All right. After pondering for a while, Yu Qixing didn't dwell on this matter, and muttered in a low voice. What I need you to do is very simple. Take me out. You want to get out of prison too? Yi Zichen frowned. What was going on? Why did it feel like he'd run into an army of prison breakers? They all wanted to get out. No, no, no. To his surprise, Yu Qixing shook her head. I don't want you to take me out. It's just a small prison. I can get out if I want. I'm staying here purely because I think life here is simpler. If I want to get out, this place can't hold me back. Then what do you want? I want you to take me out of the ancestral dragon clan. Damn. Yi Zichen was stunned for a good half a minute when he heard this request. This big sister really dared to dream. Get out of the ancestral dragon clan. She'd been captured by the law enforcement department earlier, yet she wasn't satisfied and wanted to run away. You want to get out of the ancestral dragon clan? Yi Zichen frowned. That's right. Yu Qixing nodded noncommittally. I want to leave the ancestral dragon clan and live with the human race. Actually, what you need to do is very simple. When you leave the ancestral dragon clan's trial, take me with you. Just let me leave on your battleship. You might be interrogated in the meantime, so you can let them in. Just hide me. You make it sound so easy, Yi Zichen smiled wryly. If they come in and interrogate me, how am I supposed to hide you? There's always a place. Yu Qixing shrugged. Yu Qixing shrugged nonchalantly. That's how Wunli took me out last time. At that time, she hid me in the energy storage room. You can also hide me there and take me out. In fact, it's quite simple. If it's really that simple, why don't you find someone else? There were plenty of Her Majesties and Her Majesties who'd come here for the trial. If it really was that simple, any one of them could do it. Why did she have to go out of her way to find him? That's why I said we really might be fated to meet. Yu Qixing shrugged. Yu Qixing shrugged. Just as I was about to leave the prison, I heard that the human race's majesties had been detained, so I chose to stay and meet you. If you agree, then I won't need to leave the prison and interact with people I don't trust. You trust me? You seem pretty good. I feel like you're someone worth trusting and trusting. I've been observing your subordinates these past few days. They all approve of you, which means that you're worth befriending. Since that's the case, I choose to work with you. Also, you said that Wunli is your big sister, so I naturally believe you, replied Yu Qixing. You really know my big sister. You can go ask her. Yu Qixing. Do she really know me? Stop pretending. Yi Zichen lowered his gaze. I can contact my big sister right now. If you're lying to me, you'll be exposed. How about you admit it yourself? You can go ask her, said Yu Qixing. The confidence in her expression made Yi Zichen suspect that what she said might actually be true. But, could it be such a coincidence? Yi Zichen pondered for a moment, then nodded towards her with a frown. I'm really going to ask her. Yu Qixing remained calm. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and entered the virtual network. Sis, do you know Yu Qixing? Chapter 2936. Red Packet Server, Chapter 2931, Prison Break, Begin Preparation. Currently typing, please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 2937. Red Packet Super, Chapter 2932, Martial Arts Tournament. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 2938. There's definitely something wrong. Just as the prison guards were eagerly preparing to participate in the martial arts competition and earn points, among the prison guards was a long-haired guard. He had kept his equipment intact the entire time, and looked at everything in front of him vigilantly. Actually, he was the one Yi Zichen had transformed into Ol Huang and left the prison. When Ol Huang returned, Yi Zichen asked the prison guard who had gone to confirm Ol Huang's identity. Carlos. His name was also one of the normal prison guards in the prison. His rank was the lowest in the prison. He was the kind of insignificant prison guard who had just entered the prison. However, he was born with sharp observation skills. This was a talent that belonged to him. When he saw Yi Zichen pretending to be Ol Huang, he instantly suspected Ol Huang's identity. However, when he turned around to look for Yi Zichen had already disappeared from his sight. This time's martial arts competition, he thought that it was a trap. Everything was planned by the Milky Way Lord, and he was definitely planning something even more terrifying and serious. That was indeed the case. As prison guards in the prison, the other prison guards actually chose to give up their uniforms and fight with other prisoners bare-chested. Look at their cheers after getting promoted. It was as if they had already forgotten their responsibilities and were completely immersed in the satisfaction of earning points. This was definitely going to cause a huge problem. Definitely. He wanted to warn his other colleagues, but he could no longer say anything to them. Even if he did, no one would listen to him. Instead, they would say that he was making a mountain out of a molehill. In this sort of situation, he made a choice, which was to go around Yi Zichen and keep an eye on him. He had a certain amount of points on him. According to the prison's internal rules, none of the prisoners could pose any threat to him, and he could control them if they started a riot. However, if it was a large-scale riot, he wouldn't be able to stop it on his own. Thus, he could only keep an eye on Yi Zichen. As long as he could keep an eye on him, there shouldn't be too much of a problem. He actually didn't know whether or not he was right. However, he decided to believe in his sixth sense. All right. Hit him. Yes, hit him. The prisoners in the prison were all shouting. At this time, the martial arts competition had officially begun. Due to the number of people, this time, the competition was divided into many areas, and the selection would be carried out in an elimination fashion. Among them, there were more than a dozen areas where the prison guards were on the field. In prison, it was impossible for a prisoner not to have some thoughts about the guard. Although the prison guards usually treated them well, there would still be some misunderstanding between them. Seeing the prison guards appear, the prisoners rushed forward as if they were on steroid. I lost again. Cui Cheng and Haozi were also pounding their fists and stamping their feet. During this time, Yi Zichen sat in his chair, Jiang Nan stood behind him, and Yu Qixing sat beside him. He actually, from the beginning to the end, he did not watch the martial arts competition. His mind was not on this matter. During this period, he had been paying attention to the situation of the prison guards. Almost all the prison guards had participated in the competition under Old Huang's instigation. Only Carlos was still fully equipped. Yizichin naturally noticed Yizichin. Not all of the prison guards in this prison are idiots, Yizichin muttered softly. Yuchi Xing glanced in Carlos's direction and met his gaze. Yuchi Xing nodded towards Carlos, then returned her gaze to the competition. Indeed. That person seems to be staring at you. So be it. He can't change the result by himself, Yizichin stretched lazily. Yizichin stretched lazily. It would be rather funny if all of our plans were ruined by him, a prison guard. Do you have any preparations outside? Yes. Yizichin nodded. Xingjie, I'll leave this place to you. I'm going to talk to that prison guard. Go. Yuchi Xing squinted her eyes and continued to look towards the field. Yizichin twisted his neck and stood up from his seat. Everyone was paying attention to the competition this time. Practically no one noticed Yizichin and Jiang Nan leave. Only Carlos, who had been staring at Yizichin, frowned the moment Yizichin moved. What surprised him was that Yizichin actually headed towards him. Sir, don't you want to fight? Yizichin asked softly with a smile. I'm not good at fighting, Carlos replied. I feel like Sire is very wary of me. Yizichin pursed his lips and smiled. I wonder, did I offend Sire in any way? Milky Way Lord, what? No matter what you want to do, don't blame me for not warning you. You can't do anything in this prison, Carlos's gaze was solemn. It doesn't matter if you want to break out of prison or start a riot. Don't think that you can achieve your goal just because the prison guards took off their uniforms. There are over 100 prison guards patrolling the perimeter of this high wall. Is that so? Yizichin raised his eyebrows in surprise. You better be more obedient. Otherwise, your future days in prison won't be too comfortable. Carlos's words carried a hint of threat. Yizichin raised his eyebrows and shrugged. To be honest, Sire is quite unexpected for Sire to be in prison. Are you one of the higher-ups here? I'm not. What a pity. Yizichin twitched his mouth and sighed. The ancestral dragon clan really isn't good at choosing people. They actually let a talent like you get buried. So you really are going to do something? That's right. Yizichin smiled. To be honest, I'm going to break out of prison. All of a sudden, Jiang Nan, who was standing behind Yizichin, opened her eyes wide. Carlos was also frowning. You want to break out of prison? Yeah, I've stayed here long enough. I've given you Ancestral Dragon Clan enough face, so it's time for me to leave. Yizichin shrugged with a smile. Yizichin shrugged with a chuckle. Actually, I really want to stay here for a while longer. Unfortunately, school has already started, so I should report to my school. I can't waste any more time here with you guys. You can't get out. Is that so? Yizichin pursed his lips and nodded. But I want to try. Carlos was speechless. Yizichin also touched his eyebrows. Just now you told me I can't do anything, right? Carlos smiled calmly. Yizichin raised his eyebrows slightly. Then, what do you think you can do? Boom! Just as Yizichin said that, a deafening sound suddenly sounded out from the prison gate. Soon after, he saw a huge hole in the prison's gate being blasted open by an iceberg. A tall and slender woman wearing a mask, every step she took caused a layer of ice to form behind her. Yizichin left. Chapter 29:39. The cold wind was bone-chilling. The prison gate was covered in ice. The tall masked woman was like a proud and aloof king of the northern mountains. Behind her, several tens of masked thugs were fighting with the prison guards outside. Carlos was stunned. He simply could not believe that the prison gate could be broken open. How is this possible? The area outside was isolated. Only someone with a level of over 1 trillion could use the ability to control the element. Could it be a trillion-level person came to break into the prison? Do you see that? What else do you think you can do at a time like this? Yizichin muttered softly as he looked at Carlos, whose eyes were filled with terror. Just who is the one who can't do anything? At this moment, it was already the best proof of that. Can't do anything at all? Carlos's gaze turned cold as he looked at the scene in front of him. He grabbed Yizichen's shoulder, took out a pair of handcuffs from somewhere, and cuffed them onto Yizichen's wrist. At least I can catch you. Is that so? Yizichen squinted his eyes and smiled. He snapped his fingers, causing the handcuffs to break into pieces and fall off his wrist. Carlos looked at the broken handcuffs. He froze on the spot. They were scared. Be it the prison guards or the prisoners, they were all intimidated by the Milky Way Lord. In the hearts of the prison guards, the Milky Way Lord wasn't worth mentioning. He was a person without any abilities, so nobody took him seriously. So much so that when they chose to take off their uniforms, nobody hesitated. They didn't believe that the Milky Way Lord had any plans, and simply thought that it was the Milky Way Lord flattering them. The Milky Way Lord wasn't what they thought he was. He was mediocre and useless. Everything he did was purely for the sake of reducing his presence in the prison, so that the people in the prison would focus on someone else, so that everyone would look down on him. Then he could carry out his plans in secret. For example, breaking out of the prison. I sympathize with you. If you were the person in charge of this prison, I might not be able to leave. Unfortunately, you aren't. You can't do anything right now either. Yizichen patted Carlos's shoulder, then shouted towards the dueling ring. The gate is broken. We're free. Run. In short, it was as if the prisoners who were competing in martial arts had been injected with a stimulant. They all ran madly towards the prison gate. At this time, even if the prison guards wanted to maintain order, they couldn't do it. They wouldn't be able to wear their uniforms or badges for a while. In this state, they were no different from the prisoners in prison. Prison riot. Countless prisoners ran outside, but some of them chose to stay where they were. Those that did not move, they all wanted to stay here of their own volition. Some wanted to hide from their enemies, while others wanted to be like Yuchi Xing and enjoy the peace here. Sister Xing, I'm leaving. Hurry up and leave. Don't forget to tell me when you leave the ancestral dragon clan. Otherwise, I will complain to Wenli. A smile lingered in Yuchi Xing's eyes. I will. When Yuchi Xing said that she knew Wenli, Yizichen did not believe it at first. In order to verify, he did contact Wenli. The result was save her. Those two simple words were enough to prove Yuchi Xing's identity. She really did know Wenli. What's more, their relationship seemed to be extraordinary. Here are 3 trillion points. Take them and use them. Yuchi Xing took out a point crystal and placed it in Yizichen's palm. I hope that when we meet again, you'll have already become an indomitable existence. 3 trillion. When she heard that number, even Jiang Nan revealed a look of terror. A trillion. The person in charge of the North District was actually a trillion. How could someone of that level be willing to live in a prison? If she didn't want to, no one could capture her. Could it be that she came here of her own free will? Bei Feng, are you coming with me? Of course. Although Bei Feng didn't understand the current situation very well, if Yizichen chose to leave, he would definitely follow. Otherwise, who would teach him martial arts? What are you doing? The tall woman in front of the prison gate urged him anxiously. Hurry up. Their reinforcements are coming. As she spoke, she gathered several icicles in her palm and nailed the incoming guards to the wall or ground. Let's go. Yizichen nodded at Yuchi Xing, glanced down at Jiang Nan, then walked towards the prison gates. During this time, the prison guards had already put on their clothes and were about to capture the prisoners who wanted to escape. Quite a few of them chose to charge towards Yizichen and the others, including Ol Huang. However, it was a pity. Anyone who tried to get close to Yizichen was sent flying by an invisible force. By the time they tried to charge up, a bone-chilling cold had already sealed them in ice, preventing them from moving. Ice sculptures solidified in the courtyard of the prison. Carlos watched this scene silently, not moving an inch. He knew very well. He'd already explained it. From the moment the prison gates were destroyed, Yi Zichen's plan had succeeded. Those prisoners weren't accomplices. They didn't even know about Yi Zichen's plan. All they knew was that the moment the door was broken, they'd have a chance to see the light again, and they'd become accomplices in the Milky Way Lord's escape. Or, more accurately, they'd help him. Really, why are you so slow? The points I'm burning are decreasing at a ridiculous rate. I'm here because my younger sister and the others gathered all the points for me. When the masked man saw Yi Zichen, he scolded him. Hey, it's just a few points. When we get back, I'll give each of you a few 100 billion, said Yi Zichen with a shrug. The masked man was stunned. A few 100 billion? What have you been doing in this prison? This is all thanks to Zhuing, Yi Zichen grinned. She wants to capture me so much, but it's a pity that she's only used me as a stepping stone time and time again. I really have to thank her in person once I get out. Alright, stop talking nonsense. What are these two people doing? They are going with us. Yi Zichen glanced at Guan Feng and Jiang Nan. I'll explain once we get out of here. Let's go first. We've wasted enough time. The ancestral dragon clan will definitely send someone over. You still know. The person under the mask sneered coldly. Soon after, he raised his hand and said to the other masked men, Retreat. Chapter 2940. 10 minutes later, in the sky above the prison, thousands of workers in security uniforms were standing on a giant flying sword. When the flying sword landed on the ground outside the prison gate, all the prison guards stood at the gate with their hands behind their back. He escaped. The one walking in front was a handsome young man. He squinted at the destroyed gate of the prison and whispered softly. Yes. The prison warden gulped and nodded slightly. Who rescued him? The handsome young man maintained his cold tone, causing the prison warden to tremble uncontrollably. That subordinate. All right, stop talking. The handsome young man squinted his eyes and waved at the people behind him. Immediately, two young men wielding laser swords walked over. One of them stabbed the warden's chest, while the other chopped off his head. The bloody head fell to the ground. The prison guards standing outside the gate kept quiet out of fear, not daring to breathe loudly. As the prison warden, he wasn't in the prison at the first instance. Instead, he came here after the incident. Even if we interrogated him, he couldn't say anything. Dereliction of duty. Such a warden doesn't need to live anymore. The handsome young man muttered softly and looked at the prison guards in front of him. Who's Carlos? It's me. Carlos, who was standing in the corner, walked over. Seeing the prison warden die in front of him, Carlos felt some fear in his heart. He kept his head lowered, not daring to raise it. Raise your head. The handsome young man muttered softly. Carlos swallowed hard and raised his head. From his eyes, one could tell that he was still very afraid. You were the one who contacted the headquarters. Yes. Explain the situation. It's like this. Carlos pondered for a moment, pursed his lips, and said softly, The person who took the Milky Way Lord away is an expert in using ice. Ice, yes. He used elemental energy in the ancestral dragon city. The handsome young man lowered his eyes and said softly, Are you trying to say that there are trillions of people? This subordinate can't confirm. Carlos muttered. Can't confirm? You can't confirm that the other party used elemental energy or something. I can't confirm if the other party is at the trillion level. State your reason. From the beginning to the end, the handsome young man's tone did not fluctuate or change at all. Carlos exhaled deeply and replied. Just now, when I was capturing the Milky Way Lord, when I was sure that he wasn't at the level of a trillion, he used a mysterious power to destroy my handcuffs. I can no longer completely trust the internal rules of the ancestral dragon clan, so... The handsome young man nodded. The laws of the ancestral dragon clan have been fluctuating during this period of time. Your suspicions are not wrong. Describe the person who used ice in detail. Tall and slender, with a perfect body, Carlos muttered with a frown. She's a woman. She should be someone who has been in a high position for a long time. She has an aura that ordinary people can't have. At that time, he was wearing a mask, so I couldn't see his face. His fingers were very long, and his temperament was somewhat cold. Your description. The handsome young man narrowed his eyes and muttered softly. Even if you can't find 1,000 of them in the ancestral dragon clan, you can at least find 800 of them. What kind of mask is she wearing? Black mask. Is it a mask from our ancestral dragon clan? Doesn't look like it. I need to ask you again. Is it a mask from our ancestral dragon clan? Answer yes or no. The handsome young man threatened. No. All right. The handsome young man nodded slightly. You need to take full responsibility for what you said just now. Yes. Carlos nodded. Did you contact the headquarters immediately? No. Carlos shook his head. I contacted the warden at the first instance and asked him to contact the headquarters. But the warden didn't believe what I said. In the end, I was reckless and definitely contacted the headquarters. The handsome young man muttered to himself for a while before muttering softly. How did you confirm that he wanted to break out of the prison? I didn't know that he wanted to break out of the prison at first. Carlos answered truthfully. I simply felt that the Galactic Lord's behavior was very strange. Moreover, the prison guards in the prison had also let down their guard. This kind of laxity made me uneasy, so I was a little wary of the Galactic Lord. When he personally told me that he wanted to break out of the prison, I then used our internal communication device to send a distress signal to the headquarters. Did all of you take off your uniforms? When the handsome young man asked this question, everyone could not help but swallow their saliva. Who instigated it? Immediately after, the handsome young man asked again. Everyone subconsciously looked at old Huang. Carlos pursed his lips and said, No one instigated it. No one instigated it. Does that mean these people are neglecting their duties? The handsome young man frowned. We fell into the Galactic Lord's trap. As soon as he finished speaking, Carlos told the handsome young man everything that happened after the Galactic Lord entered the prison until he broke out of the prison. Heh! This Galactic Lord is interesting. The handsome young man twisted his neck and nodded slightly at Carlos. What rank are you in the prison? I'm an ordinary police officer. From now on, you are the warden of this prison. Just as the handsome young man finished speaking, Carlos's eyes widened. Warden. He was promoted to the position of warden. I don't want to see. In the future, if anyone leaves the prison without our release order, how many prisoners escaped this time? The handsome young man asked with a frown. About 2,000. Carlos muttered. This mistake will be shouldered by your previous warden. Next time, no one will be able to get away with it. This time, I'll let it go. Everyone will be fined 3 months' salary. Find someone to fix the prison door as soon as possible. As soon as he finished speaking, the handsome young man walked straight to First Lieutenant Yuxing. You did it, right? Your Excellency, you really think highly of me. Yuxing shrugged. Don't try to struggle. If I can catch you once, I can catch you again. The handsome young man squinted his eyes and smiled. Then, he turned around and returned to his flying sword. The thousands of people behind him rode on the flying sword and disappeared without a trace. Yuxing squinted her eyes and watched him disappear. Carlos. Old Huang's lips moved, not knowing what to say. Carlos glanced at him. In the past, I didn't care who made a mistake here. Everything ends here. In the future, this kind of thing cannot happen in the prison again. Yes, Warden. All the prison guards nodded vigorously. Old Huang also clenched his fist and nodded. Yes, Warden. Chapter 2941. Get in. After running for a few minutes, he saw a small 6-seater car parked on the side of the road. Guanfeng, Jiangnan and Yi Zichen all climbed into the car. There was a driver waiting in the car. What surprised Yi Zichen was that the driver was actually Blue Lotus Fairy. "Hey, how's life in prison?" Blue Lotus Fairy squinted her eyes and giggled. Yi Zichen instantly opened his eyes wide when he saw her. "I said, Desh, didn't you tell me someone would help me if I went to jail? In the end, I came out on my own." "Hey, why are you so angry?" Blue Lotus Fairy touched her pretty face sadly. "Don't you feel happy to see me? I'm the one who stabilized the clearest morale for you all this time. Ask Luo. Meng Luo and the others are about to mobilize their troops." "Yes." Su Luo didn't retort. She just shrugged noncommittally. Meng Luo has indeed been clamoring to attack the ancestral dragon clan. Yi Zichen didn't find that strange. With Meng Luo's temperament, it was truly possible for her to do such a thing. "See." In the car, a question mark slowly appeared on Jiangnan's head. "Attack the ancestral dragon clan? What the hell were these people talking about? Did you hear that?" Luo won't lie. Blue Lotus Fairy smiles faintly. "It was not easy for me to hold Meng Luo and the others back. Furthermore, you did not suffer any grievances in the prison, right? Don't you have a close female friend by your side?" All of a sudden, Yi Zichen felt a chill. A threatening gaze from his sister-in-law. Even though this was the ancestral dragon clan, his sister-in-law was still very ridiculous. It was the iceberg that had just broken the door. Ice breath that froze all the prison guards. If Yi Zichen didn't want to die right now, then he better explain his relationship with Jiangnan. "Well, let me introduce you. This is Jiangnan. I met her in prison. We have a cooperative relationship. Moreover, she will be our ally in the future." Yi Zichen coughed, then raised his eyebrows towards Jiangnan. "Say it yourself." "Hello, I am Jiangnan, the daughter of the ancestral dragon clan's Master of Justice." Jiangnan muttered. Hearing that she was the Master of Justice, the people in the car all looked at her. Jiangnan pursed her lips and said, "My father, the Master of Justice, was killed by the Master of Sin. I came out of prison for revenge. The internal strife of your ancestral dragon clan is also very ridiculous." Blue Lotus Fairy smiled and raised her eyebrows. "Little girl, then you should know that we are going to compete with the ruling master, right?" "I know. Not bad. You still dare to form an alliance with the Milky Way Lord. You have guts." Fairy Blue Lotus smiled and said, "Let's leave it at that. In the short term, we probably won't have any conflicts with the ruling master. The Milky Way Overlord being detained is just a small test. What do you intend to do?" "Me? Yes. Of course I'm going to take revenge on the evil lord." Jiangnan's eyes were filled with resentment. That dense resentment made Fairy Blue Lotus raise her eyebrows. "Do you think you are a match for the Sin Lord?" "It's not important." Jiangnan's eyes were completely blinded by hatred. "The death of my father is absolutely irreconcilable." Yes, you're right." Fairy Blue Lotus nodded. "The death of your father is absolutely irreconcilable, but you can't just go and do it for free, right? With your current strength, you're far too weak." "Then what should I do? Didn't I say it just now?" "Cooperate with us," Fairy Blue Lotus shrugged. "As long as you cooperate with us, we can even take down the ruling master, much less a mere Sin Lord." During this time, Yi Zichen looked at Fairy Blue Lotus, who was driving, in confusion. "Is this sister all right? Since when did she have a grudge against the ruling master? How long do you need?" Jiangnan frowned. "I can't wait too long. Little sister, don't be in such a hurry. Take it slow," Fairy Blue Lotus comforted. "As the saying goes, a gentleman can wait 10 years for revenge. The ancestral dragon clan isn't that easy to deal with. You are the daughter of the Lord of Justice, and that's why I'm willing to cooperate with you. As for how it's going to unfold, just wait for our news." Alright, I'll stop here. Our conversation ends here." Fairy Blue Lotus smiled and looked towards Guanfeng. Where did you come from? Are you the descendant of some hero, or? I'm the Milky Way Lord's disciple, Guanfeng said seriously. Disciple? Yes, I came out to learn martial arts from the Milky Way Lord. That's it? That's it. Guanfeng nodded. He felt like this was already very important. What other important reason was there? Then get off. You're nothing, and you dare to sit in my car? Several hours later, they returned to Liberation City. There were no pursuers at the prison. Perhaps Jiangnan was right. Once you were released from prison, your crimes were no longer important. No one will go and capture you. What surprised Yi Zichen was that while he was gone, Su Yan and the others had bought a sizable residence. When he returned, there were no surprises. Everyone looked at him in surprise. Of course, there were no surprises. When they saw Jiangnan, they all looked at her with hostility. Yi Zichen explained Jiangnan's identity to them. After finding out about her background, everyone who had been looking at her as if she was their love rival suddenly hugged her with pitiful and regretful gazes. They even said that this was her home and that she would be a part of this team from now on. That night, Yi Zichen obtained about 4 trillion points from the prison. Including the points Qi Xing had given him, they divided them evenly. When they saw these points, everyone was shocked, including Fairy Blue Lotus. What annoyed her was that she had waited for 10 odd minutes, but in the end she didn't get a single point. She was so angry that she wanted to run away from home. In the end, no one asked her to stay, so she found an excuse to stay. However, she only stopped when Yi Zichen transferred all the money he was supposed to give her. Jiangnan and Guanfeng naturally stayed the night as well. At that moment, the prison incident ended, and everyone went to bed early. Tomorrow was the day the ancestral dragon clan officially reopened. That was when the true battle with the Master of Adjudication, Zhu Ying, would begin. I'm sure her expression will be very interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. Chapter 2942. Red Packet Server, Chapter 2937. School begins. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 2943. Red Packet Server, Chapter 2938. Ranking. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 2944. The voice was piercing. Perhaps the source of the piercing sound was the mention of the human race. Yi Zichen and company couldn't help but stop when they heard this sort of racial discrimination. They looked up and saw that there was a path several dozen meters away. There was a road paved with gold bricks, and on either side of it there should have been 2 paths that branched off. At this moment, on the main road paved with gold bricks, there were a few people looking at the people on the ground with contempt and disdain. Actually, the ancestral dragon clan was also human. However, this might be the feeling of rejection of outsiders in some places. Yi Zichen could sense their disgust towards humans from their words. The human lying on the ground was still bleeding. A few men and women stood beside him. They seemed to be his guards and members of his squad. Although they were all furious, they suppressed their anger and didn't attack. How unlucky. I've just arrived at school, and I'm already bumping into you country bumpkins. The young man from the ancestral dragon clan who stood arrogantly on the golden road sneered. The eyes were the windows to a person's soul. Yi Zichen could tell from his eyes that he definitely wasn't someone who was easy to get along with. Do you think you're worthy of walking the golden road? Can't you see that path? That's for you humans. Do you understand? If you dare to come to the golden road again, I'll break your legs. I don't care if you're His Majesty or Her Highness. In the ancestral dragon clan, you're just a bunch of country bumpkins. Yi Zichen could tell that the ancestral dragon youth seemed to have an incomparable sense of superiority. As a member of the ancestral dragon clan, it was as if he was born a level higher than the humans outside of the clan. F***CK. Meng Luo was the first to object. She grabbed her sleeves as if she wanted to beat the ancestral dragon people up. However, before she could take 2 steps, Yi Zichen grabbed her. Great deity, why won't you let me go? Meng Luo's eyes were filled with confusion. Listen to them. They said that we humans are country bumpkins, and that we're not worthy of walking the golden road. Why aren't we worthy? Wait, Yi Zichen had actually wanted to make a move at the very beginning, but he thought about it a bit before he did. It wasn't that he was afraid of the ancestral dragon race, he just didn't want to cause any trouble. Moreover, the one who was beaten up was probably a highness or highness of the human race, so he would more or less have his own pride. If there was no one around, he could endure being slapped. However, if it was seen by his colleagues, he would definitely feel ashamed and hurt his self-esteem. In the end, he might even blame Yi Zichen and company for being nosy. Not to mention making an enemy out of the ancestral dragon race's young talents, he wouldn't have a good reputation either. At that time, he would even be hated by this human. What's there to wait for? Naturally, Meng Luo would listen to Yi Zichen, but she still muttered in her heart. This broken place of the ancestral dragon clan. It's just like the rural-urban fringe. I don't know where they get their sense of superiority from. They actually think that we are country bumpkins. How arrogant. Yi Zichen squinted his eyes and muttered to himself. Perhaps the ancestral dragon race lives in their own world. If they don't look at the outside world, they'll never be able to compare to them. Let's not shatter their fantasies. Let's just let them continue believing they're infallible. But, Meng Luo hesitated. Don't get involved in other people's business. When the time comes, we might even attract bad luck. Now's not the time to make a move yet. Let's wait a bit longer. Yi Zichen muttered, someone capable of beating up His Highness is no ordinary person. He won't just endure being humiliated like this. The ancestral dragon race youth's expression was one of ridicule. Everyone who came to this school knew that the ancestral dragon race and the human race belonged to 2 different factions. That was why there was no need for sympathy or modesty when dealing with humans. Bullying them was the right thing to do. That's enough. The human who'd been slapped to the ground stood up with the help of his team members. He wiped away the blood on his face, but the handprint was still rather glaring. He looked down at the young man from the ancestral dragon clan. His azure blue eyes were filled with a bone-piercing coldness like ice and snow. If you're done, then we'll just take the small path. Soon after, the young prodigy of the human race really did lead his hand to that small path. Although his guards and team members were unwilling, they still silently retreated to the small path. However, they stared intently at the ancestral dragon race youths, as if they wanted to etch their faces deep into their minds. Etch their faces into their minds. This seemed to surprise the ancestral dragon youths, but the ridicule on their faces quickly deepened. They reached out and grabbed the human youth. You humans are really soft. Fine. Since you're so cowardly, how about this? Kneel down and crawl under my legs, then I'll let you go. If you don't, don't go too far. In the group of human youths, a strong-looking man glared angrily at them. What are you yelling for? HM? The ancestral dragon youth squinted his eyes and raised his hand to slap that man. Halfway through, he was grabbed by the human youth. Friend, don't go overboard, and we'll meet again in the future. You're just relying on the fact that you're from the ancestral dragon race and have a certain advantage over us humans. However, you can't always have more points than us, do you understand? You should be glad that this is the ancestral dragon race. Ha 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 ha, what are you doing? Threatening me? Suddenly, the ancestral dragon youth burst into laughter. Why? You don't feel good? Come and hit me then. If you're capable, why don't you have more points than me? Trash, you'll be trash forever. Don't go to the barren sand region, the human youth muttered. Kneel or not? The ancestral dragon youth frowned. My patience. Dong. Before he could finish his sentence, a loud sound was heard. Everyone from the ancestral dragon race and the human race looked over and saw Meng Luo clapping her hands. Zhao Xian and the others were also walking on the golden path paved with golden brick. The ancestral dragon youth glared at Zhao Xian and the others, then glanced at his lackey, who had been tossed to the ground. "Who are you?" the ancestral dragon youth roared. "Did you come looking for trouble?" "Nope." Yi Zichen smiled and shrugged. "I'm a human student who just came to this school to report. This person blocked our way just now. I have a bad habit. I don't like to give way. My little sister is rather straightforward, so she just tossed him to the side. Is he one of yours? Then I'm really sorry." "That's right. You blocked my way too. Are you going to scram, or do I have to send you off?"